Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. You can't go out, man, forget my peace. You take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Put it on the poll. French onion soup, overrated, underrated. Also, which baseball team is LeBron James rooting for? The Yankees, the Guardians, or the Dodgers? Which I feel like should be the big question regarding the Major League Baseball postseason right now. What is LeBron going to do if it's Guardians and Dodgers? What's he going to do if it's Yankees and Dodgers? He needs the Mets to win.
Wow.
Put it on the poll.
Big one for you tonight, Stugotz. The NLCS starts Game 3.
Yep, 1-1, back to Citi Field for 3 games.
You're going Friday, right?
I'd like to go Friday, yes. Yeah, we'll see how the remainder of the week goes. But I was fascinated by everything that happened yesterday in the NFL. I do love what the Jets are doing here because with each passing bad loss, what the Jets do on Monday is they make a big move. Last week, it was fire head coach Robert Saleh. This week, it was trade for Davante Adams. It gets the heat off of Aaron Rodgers, but they're out of moves. Their only move that they have left is winning. That's the move. They can only win. And so I do love how they're doing it. But Buffalo countered that move because they, too, wanted a wide receiver, and they got Amari Cooper. And Mike thinks that the Jets are in a worse spot today than they were yesterday.
I kind of think that they played themselves with this.
Really?
Yeah, because the Bills, by Diana Rossini's sources, by certain accounts, they were really aggressively pursuing Davante Adams. And essentially, Davante Adams had power in this scenario because he did what he eventually was talked about with the Jets, which was he was going to restructure his deal.
Right.
Because the Raiders aren't paying any of that. So he had power and sway as to where he would go because I'll restructure for more elsewhere. So he essentially chooses to go play with a quarterback north of 40 in New York, his good friend Aaron Rodgers.
Yes, a guy who knows how to get him the ball, though.
Instead of Josh Allen, who, tell me we have consensus in this room. Josh Allen presently is a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yep.
Different tier. And he chose to go with Aaron Rodgers. So the countermeasure to that is, okay, we'll get Amari Cooper. Now, if you want to say Davante Adams is better than Amari Cooper, fine. Amari Cooper is a huge upgrade to that wide receiver core, which has been decimated by injury and lost players in the offseason.
Lost Diggs.
Yeah. Amari Cooper had a game around Christmas last year where he went for 11 and 265. I think he's got plenty left in the tank, especially for this, what they need him for, which is this 1-year run. So do you think that the gulf between the two teams actually increased because of this move for Davante Adams? Because I kind of do. I think that the gulf between those two teams is now wider because of the acquisition for Amari Cooper, given the weakness at that position for Buffalo.
I think it's a net neutral, though, right? You're adding two guys that are
net neutral.
Yeah,
huh?
it is.
Wow.
Because if you're looking at it and you have the Bills already better than the Jets, this move kind of just moves the goalpost a little bit, but in the same distance. Because if you have Amari Cooper and Davante Adams on both sides, you're like, okay, good plus for both teams. That just keeps it kind of neutral. Who was better on Monday night? The Bills were, obviously. So it just feels like the Bills are still better. They were just having to keep up with what the Jets were doing, because if you give me Davante Adams with the Jets, no Amari Cooper to the Bills, I'm probably leaning a little bit more towards the Jets.
The Jets are closer, yes, of course.
I'm not sure what the Madden ratings say, but if I were to do that, I would assume the Madden rating for the Buffalo Bills went up yesterday. And I just think that the Bills got a good deal better yesterday, whereas, the Jets improved some, but I don't think they improved as much as the Buffalo Bills. So I think, in turn, their pursuit of Davante Adams and Davante Adams acquiescing to the Jets' request because he wanted to play with Aaron Rodgers actually made the climb more steep for the New York Jets.
Tony, I do agree with Mike from this standpoint. Buffalo was already good before they acquired Amari Cooper. I have no idea if the Jets are good, and I have no idea if this is going to make the Jets better. I mean, it sounds crazy to say, but it really depends on whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to get back to being Aaron Rodgers. The Bills were a great team already. And this made them even better.
Amari Cooper has an 88 Madden rating this year, and Davante Adams has a 94.
Okay. Wow. That's good. That's a good data point.
Big golf.
Yeah.
Shout out to the power of friendship, because if you're Davante Adams, I don't think you made the right move. You just wanted to go play with your friend again, who force feeds you the ball, and that's cool. You have a pretty good idea of knowing what you're capable of, and you think that you can run it back to how you had it in Green Bay, even though you technically had the choice to stay there all along and wasted everybody's time with this Raiders thing. But I think he should have gone to Buffalo. If the ultimate goal for a professional athlete in that sport is to win a Super Bowl,
right?
That's a better quarterback. That's a team better positioned to win. It was a little puzzling.
Do we know what the Bills offered?
That's a huge part of it too.
It is.
It's it's not entirely up to Davante.
By the way, Davante and Aaron Rodgers together, they were great. Stats were great. They never made it to a Super Bowl together.
Nope.
He's been to one.
No, their final act together was kind of similar to the final act of Monday Night Football, which was Aaron Rodgers not taking the underneath pass and forcing the ball downfield. Now, Mike Williams messed up. Aaron Rodgers made it very clear that Mike Williams messed up. But I don't. This thing was kind of at the end of its rope a couple seasons ago.
Yes.
So I'm not sure. And when
Are you saying the relationship between Davante and Aaron
like,
Rodgers at the end of the rope?
It's past its prime.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to
Well,
get
Aaron's
better than we've
past his
seen
prime,
it.
right? Davante's closer to the prime than Aaron is.
Yes.
Yes.
But that pairing is not ever going to be as good as we saw it a couple of years ago. So whereas Davante Adams catching balls from Josh Allen, that intrigues me. That makes me want to put a future on the Buffalo Bills. I already will on the Buffalo Bills. I think Amari Cooper.
I already have one.
He's a ball winner. He's aging with grace, I think. If you want to look at what he's done so far in that abysmal Cleveland Browns offense and hold it against him, fine. I will say he's just a couple of months older than Calvin Ridley, who might actually be watched because Calvin Ridley has not looked very good.
The
But
Bills
Amari
also
Cooper,
don't have a 1. Like, they didn't have a 1 until now, right? Keon Coleman they drafted, but like he's been okay. Who's the other? Matt Collins.
I think Shakir is kind of their 1, Billy, but he's been out hurt.
Not a true 1. Like
No.
they don't have a star, and now they have a
Well, I
star-ish.
mean, they had a 1. They sent him off to Houston. It's not the one that Josh Allen wanted, and he has a new number 1. We'll see. Amari Cooper has not had a good season this season. He's had a great career, but no one on Cleveland is having a good season.
He was a Pro Bowler.
Right.
He was a Pro Bowler last year, and while Amari Cooper is deceptively fast, he's not a player that needs to lean on separation as much. He's kind of like not Anquan Bolden level ball winner, but he is a ball winner. If he isn't open, he's open. You know what I mean? So I think it's a great acquisition for Buffalo. I kind of want to sprinkle some more on their future to win that conference now because it's exactly what they need. And, yes, I understand the point about Stephon Diggs. Diggs was there over the final month of the season. It had become abundantly clear to everybody watching that he was kind of phased out of that offense and not as good as he once was, and Allen was looking more to Shakir.
But was that based on Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs' kind of relationship?
They didn't have a good one.
They didn't have a good one, which is maybe why there was a bit of a phasing out because he looks good in Houston.
Which is also probably a data point for Davante Adams as he tries to make his decision on where he wants to go. I don't know what the Bills offered, but given what they offered for Amari Cooper, I imagine their offer was pretty competitive.
Yes.
And I read reports that Davante Adams essentially had the decision to make on where he wanted to go. I think he made the wrong one.
Billy, I heard that sound because, Tony, we are always having this argument on God Bless Football. Who won the trade? Was it Diggs or C.J. Stroud? Was it Diggs or the Buffalo Bills? Excuse me. And so far, Diggs has won that trade.
For sure.
Buffalo's off to a good start, but Diggs is off to a good start. Houston is 5-1.
Houston could be the best team in the AFC. You know what I mean? Like,
they could be, yes, or it could be Kansas City.
I think that when you consider the
what are you doing there?
when you consider the injuries,
Talking Chiefs.
when you consider the injuries that Buffalo had going into that game at Houston, and the fact that it took essentially a Josh Allen concussion in that game for the Texans to ultimately prevail. They're going to be different teams come wintertime. I trust the Bills to be better, especially with this acquisition.
Stephon
Diggs
Diggs has also been fine, right? But like, I don't think he's proven he's a number one.
He's not the same guy.
He's
not the number one there.
They have a ton of weapons. He doesn't have to be, but he's just been fine.
Well, he's not the number one there. It was Nico Collins, but now Nico is hurt.
Who's a star, by the way.
He was a star, but now Nico is hurt. Tank Dell's the 2.
He's a good 3.
I'd probably take Tank over Stephon Diggs at this point too.
No, I don't know.
Wow.
About that. I don't know about that one.
In terms of like just game breaking threat, it's
Bold
nice.
statement.
It's a nice luxury to have. Stephon Diggs is a real nice luxury to have. They have a lot of weapons. I think it's pretty clear he's not the same kind of player, guys.
A lot of football talk, huh?
Well, a lot of football
What
happened
do you want to
yesterday.
talk about? Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
saying,
You don't want to talk about football?
No, it's a lazy river, man. Take us wherever you want to go,
saying.
Billy. I mean,
Yeah, I'm just saying, a lot of hardcore football.
everyone jumping down Billy.
We got hockey takes back here.
Jeez.
We got 3 guys dying to talk hockey.
Do we?
Yeah.
We have 3 guys. There are 4 people in the back room. 3 of you want to talk hockey, huh?
Last
Tony
night,
and Roy and Mike.
It'd be funny if it wasn't Roy.
I think last night, for those that watched it, and I do think that this is a national story, what happened in Columbus was really emotional, really difficult to watch for a spectator. And I think that both the Panthers and the Blue Jackets did an amazing job with the tribute. For those that don't know, the Gaudreau brothers passed away. They were killed in a vehicular accident in New Jersey during the offseason. Johnny Gaudreau was a former teammate of Matthew Tkachuk. It was a real bummer that Matthew Tkachuk is ill.
And Sam Bennett.
Weren't able to play in this game. The Panthers showed up having purple Gatorade and Skittles, which Matthew Tkachuk said Johnny Gaudreau really enjoyed having. They all warmed up in their number 13 jerseys with Gaudreau on the nameplate, and the game starts with all sorts of messages from Johnny Gaudreau's wife, who's been so strong through this. And trust me, as hard as that was to watch last night, it could have been so much more difficult if the emotion was pouring out of Johnny's wife, but she is a pillar of strength and telling people to enjoy the game of hockey, the game that her husband loved. It's a really sad situation. His number goes up to the rafters. His best friend scores a goal, points to the number. It's great, but the way that the game started, Stugotz, was Columbus started the game without a left winger. And the faceoff happens, and it goes to the left wing spot, and they let 13 seconds go off the clock. It was really
Goosebumps.
Really powerful. Yeah. And then the game played out. Spencer Knight had a really good game for the Panthers. I got to say, and it kind of sounds ridiculous because they're reigning Stanley Cup champions, but these last 2 games, I've come away incredibly impressed with the Florida Panthers. Given their injury situation, these odd scheduled games, it's a hard road trip to start your year. 1:00 game at Boston without 2 of your best players. Winning that game, back end of a back-to-back, going into Columbus, who's not a great team, but fueled by such emotion, and getting that result, a come-from-behind victory. Really impressed with the Panthers' start this season, but I think ultimately the main takeaway from last night is how emotional that was and how these 2 teams really nailed it.
Especially coming off of that loss at Buffalo. That was not a good game. That was a good comeback performance by Spencer Knight. And Dmitry Kulikov, who we talked to during training camp, he had a very good night for a stay-at-home defenseman. He had a goal. He was a +3, blocked a shot, had 2 takeaways. He had a great night.
Are you going to pick this team apart? I mean, I'm glad you're doing it and talking hockey, but, I mean, they're off to a slow start, but they won the Stanley Cup.
I mean, that's what happens when you lose your top line center for 2 to 3 weeks, which very much lucky on, by the way. Very much lucky that was just a sprain. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Matthew Tkachuk is sick. It was sad not seeing him last night because being a former teammate of Johnny Gaudreau's, he really should have been there because he couldn't show up with the team because he's sick. Because you know how sickness kind of run through these locker rooms in hockey. So
times have changed, Roy, yes.
It's a type of sickness that they can say already he's going to be out for a week, so do what you want to do there.
Okay. Yeah. We know what it is.
But Roy mentioned our interviews that we did with the Panthers. We have Bobrovsky, we have Kulikov, and we have Greer. Man, I wish we talked to Greer now.
Chris Greer?
No.
No, AJ Greer.
AJ Greer of the Panthers.
I was gonna say,
'Cause
Big Jet.
I'm not gonna lie.
Any
When we
relation?
interviewed him, I didn't know much about him, but in the first 5 games, he's like already one of my favorite players to watch. So I honestly wish we had done the interview after I've seen him play.
Right.
But you should check him out. It's on YouTube. It's 28 minutes. We're gonna play a clip right here. We talked to Kulikov, a defenseman, and I asked him about last year if there was any doubt. You're up 3-0 against Edmonton. You lose 3 in a row. Fans are losing their minds. Everyone's freaking out. You can be honest now about it. Was there ever any doubt? Like, was there a point after one of the games where you're like, holy shit, we might be blowing this?
There wasn't any doubt before Game 7.
Yeah.
I just remember when we landed back in
After 6?
Edmonton, for Game 6.
Okay, back in Edmonton for Game
Yeah.
6.
And Tarasenko was sitting like kind of next to me. He's like, "What do you think?
Yeah.
Do we take this Game 6?" And I just wasn't confident
Yeah.
that we could do it
Yeah.
in Edmonton. So
Yeah.
I told him straight up, like, I don't know. I don't feel it. Like we might, but I just don't feel it.
Not going to lie, I felt the same way.
But for Game 7, there was a zero doubt in anyone's heads that
You could tell the way you guys came out in that first period, like
Yeah.
that mindset was pretty obvious.
For one game, us against Edmonton, I would take us any day. So, and that's what it came down to. But
What
you know,
changed between 6 and 7? Did something change? Because like
Coming back to the barn,
even like watching you guys before you took the ice when Lombi was in the room saying, we're gonna do this, we're gonna live together after this one, boys. Like it felt totally different. Was it just everybody kind of showed up that day ready to go, or was there maybe a moment where you guys all just like locked back in?
I think all the thoughts about winning it, because 3-0, you're already thinking about one game and we're champions.
Mm-hmm.
So Game 4 didn't happen. They kind of took momentum back after that Game 4. That we had it in Game 5. We could have won. But you just kind of you lose it, and the thoughts start creeping in. It's like, okay, I mean, we still have one more, maybe. We still have one more. But when it's Game 7, they also feeling pressure now. Okay, they're feeling the same pressure that we felt the whole series after Game 3. That now we can win, and that's a different kind of pressure than losing, or being afraid to lose.
so that will all be out later on YouTube today.
It's longer than that.
Yes, there's more.
Da-na-na. Where's the guitar riff? Do we have one of those or no?
And if you think Kulikov brought energy, wait till you hear Bob.
Kulikov's a unit, though. That dude is put together. Oilers, by the way, they win one in overtime.
Oh,
last night,
finally.
but off to a really rough start.
They were
McDavid-
0-3, right?
They stink.
McDavid doesn't have any goals. In fact, there was a goalie goal last night in the NHL.
goal?
Yeah, a goalie goal. Let's
Philip
I don't know-
Gustafson of the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, I think we have a great call from a friend of the program, Bob Wischusen. Bob Wischusen was on this call. If you watched the Panthers game last night, you know that Spencer Knight was kind of eyeing a goalie goal.
Yeah.
And it sparked a conversation between my wife and I because she asked, has anyone ever scored a goalie goal before? I'm like, yeah, it happens several times. Martin Brodeur did it a couple times, I think, with an empty net.
Yep.
I think Billy Smith did it a few times for the Islanders.
Ron Hextall.
Yeah.
It's happened, but
Hextall.
it was actually cool that as we were kind of talking about it, moments later, I look up to my top left TV to St. Louis, Minnesota, and you could tell right away the goalie was eyeing for it. Here's Bob Wischusen on the call.
Buchnevich fires in, looking for a goalie goal. Gustafson scores! Philip Gustafson mobbed! We've got the goalie goal! Wow!
Has Bob Wischusen ever been on this show? You called him a friend of the show. I'm just wondering, has he ever been on the show?
He's in our hockey chat.
Oh, okay. Is he really?
The hockey chat that had a good
Wow.
feeling about the Lightning series. Bob Wischusen's in our hockey
How
chat.
did Bob slip into the hockey chat? Like, how did that happen?
He's one of the great voices of hockey, so we added him to the chat.
I don't think anyone recognizes Bob. I love Bob, and he is a great voice. He's the voice of the Jets. I don't think anyone would list like top 5, top 10 hockey voices of all time and put Bob Wischusen in there.
Disrespect.
I mean, he's on the
All-time.
B team.
All time is, yeah.
It starts with Doc Emmerich. And
Did
then
you say that as a compliment, the B team thing?
Yeah,
He's on the ESPN's B
He's on
team.
the ESPN's B team. I think if you do that contemporary voices, contemporary voices, I think
Second
quite
line,
a few
huh?
people would say Bob Wischusen.
Never has he's on the B team been said so more proudly.
Roy's not in our hockey chat because Roy has green text.
Wow.
Okay.
But how did Bob get in there?
Yeah.
He has blue text.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Thank you for clearing it up. Great hockey voices of all time. Not Bob Wischusen. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Al Arbor.
I think all time.
Oh,
Arbor. I'm not going to push
Arbor
back.
Day.
I think
He
you
did some
misunderstood. I think he's one of the best voices going right now. No doubt.
Right.
He's really good at it. And also, he's got this kind
It's a bad
of
one, Roy.
he's kind of got this magic to him on the college football side, where the games that he's calling on college football over the weekend, they always seem to have wild endings. Kind of Gus Johnson had this magic that Bob now has, in that if he's calling your game, wacky things are going to happen.
When you say best voice, do you mean like he's good at calling games, or his actual voice is like a quality voice?
I think his actual voice is a quality voice, but I think he's really good at calling hockey. I think his energy level, too, is better for the sport than – no disrespect to ESPN's A team, but I actually prefer what is perceived to be their B team. From an energy standpoint, I just enjoy Bob on the call a little bit more.
I feel like hockey should be called like, in dodgeball, the what was the guy's name? The guy from Goalless or Smartless?
Yeah, no,
whatever
you're
it's
right.
called.
Go ahead.
Jason Bateman?
Jason Bateman, like that character, that should be what hockey announcers are, right? Like it should be like you're calling the X Games, because hockey's a crazy sport.
Yeah. It's
Like,
a bold strategy.
Yeah. I what?
No, I'm just listening to you. That's
You guys
all.
don't think that it's
Self-conscious a little bit, Billy? I like the take. They should do it like from the hip, right? Forget about all the X's and O's. Just give me like real.
No, it should be an exciting goal call. It shouldn't be boring. Hockey's an exciting sport. That's part of the
I
problem.
agree
Is on
with you.
TV, hockey's
Yes.
not super exciting to watch. It's more exciting to see in person. You need announcers that bring the proper energy.
People had their opinions, and I know
Tony
that
hates me, huh? I don't know what's going on with him.
I'm trying to help you.
Sean McDonough was the lead voice on the Stanley Cup, and he was actually battling through sickness, and I know a lot of people had their opinions of
Right.
Sean during the Stanley Cup final, maybe not knowing that he was dealing with stuff, but he, compared to Bob, is less energetic, no doubt.
But he's the A team.
He is, but he's also not in my hockey chat.
But if he was, I feel like you'd be saying he's the greatest voice in hockey.
I would shoot straight. I think.
You would tell McDonough that you like Wischusen better?
Well, I will say,
in the chat.
in defense of the chat,
Get outta
we were
here.
all kind of universally saying Bob is the best hockey voice going right now. And then someone's like, I'm going to add Bob. And we were like, hooray, best voice. And so he got added to the chat.
Right.
A lot of you guys go to Panther games. A lot of you guys go to Marlins games, or just Billy just goes to Marlins games. But do we have the death of the person that listens to the game on the radio while watching the game? Has that died, or do we still have that?
That happens a lot at baseball games, I'm
right.
sure.
That's why I was asking Billy.
There are far less people like keeping score and stuff. Like all that stuff that you saw in like the early 2000s and 90s. I don't
Yes.
think you're seeing a ton of people like keeping score.
Billy,
Right.
Is that a bygone era thing?
I didn't hear the question from Tony.
He was asking how many people are still listening to the game on headphones while at the baseball
game, right?
Not a ton, I don't think.
So
right?
some people still are. Like you've seen people
Some
with
people still
headphones.
do it, yes.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
doubt. Yeah.
Because it's a great experience when you sync the game with what it is. Because obviously when you're doing
Wait,
radio,
you've done it?
I haven't done it.
I was going to say,
I've
how do you
seen
know it's a
people-
great experience?
My dad told me.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of
Bygone era.
It's really popular when it comes to motorsports. Motorsports live attendees, they often wear their.
They like to hear
headphones.
the call of the race, yes.
You just because you
Right.
can't see everything that's going on from your vantage point.
I will tell you that my dad loves Boog Shambi so much and loves him calling baseball so much, he still turns the television down if Boog's on the
classic.
game and turns up the radio. Because Boog is calling the NLCS right now. And so my dad is listening to Boog on the radio while watching the game inside his house on TV. Roy, I understand why you're confused that I said Al Arbor.
Yes, because
was-
he's not a play-by-play guy.
Well,
He's
he was the head coach of the
Islanders.
Islanders. They won 4 straight cups, drive for 5. They lost to Edmonton. Gretzky took over the sport. He did have a cup of coffee as an analyst, and
As
he was
an
very
analyst.
good at it. But the guy I was thinking about was Jiggs McDonald.
Yes.
Yes, Jiggs.
Yes, Jiggs McDonald.
That is a voice of hockey right there.
Yeah.
Not Bob Wischusen. Now I'm going to get myself into trouble with Bob.
gonna say, what
and
are you
Bob's a
doing?
friend, and I like Bob a lot, but no one thinks hockey
Bob's a friend
announcers.
of
We
yours?
do.
No, Bob's a friend of ours.
It's weird, though.
They're
He
not
was a
friends
friend
with
of the
Bob.
show.
I'm friends with Bob.
You're not friends with Bob.
I am friends with
Are
Bob.
you
Not
gonna
Call
chat?
Bob right now.
When's the
Call
last
Bob.
time
I
you
will.
Let him
texted
know.
I'm gonna
Let him
text
know,
Bob
Stu.
right now. I
Call
am.
Bob.
What are you
All
gonna
right.
text him?
I'm going to text
Hey,
him.
man, how are things?
Do you fancy yourself as one of the 10 greatest hockey voices of all time? I'm going to ask
All
him.
time?
You're changing. We never said all time.
All
What
time?
what do you guys want me to text
Just
him?
text him
We
B
said-
team.
No,
You want him on the show? You want to talk some puck with Bob?
I love talking.
They
puck
text
Bob.
with him. They talk puck with
Yeah,
him all
but
the
I talk
time.
I know,
Yeah.
but I just,
Why don't you get him on the
Do
show?
you have Bob's number?
We've actually
I do
been,
have Bob's number.
I'm questioning.
We've low key been infiltrating these broadcasts, telling them, "Hey, if Kaprizov gets a point here, try to be a little bit more excited because your boy has over 1.5."
Wow.
Wow.
Starts with a W, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Washuzin.
Yeah.
Can you spell it?
Why don't you spell Bob?
W-I-S.
Just spell
Washuzin.
Bob.
Nailed it.
So
How
far,
many
so
Bobs
good.
do you have saved in your phone or Bobbies?
I got a lot of Bobs.
I doubt that.
I do have a lot
Not
of
a
Bobs.
lot that you can't find it.
Bobrovsky,
Let's go to Bob.
Bob Costas,
Oof.
Bob the engineer.
Bob Ryan,
All the Bobs, the engineers.
Bob.
I wonder what he's doing right now.
Bobby
one?
Carpenter.
The engineer.
He's probably
Yeah, but
super
we had
pumped about
three-
the
we've
Amari
had three
Cooper
straight Bobs.
acquisition.
We had two Bobs and then a Robert.
So I'm reaching out to Bob.
Ethan's actually very cavalier with texting Bob. Like,
Yeah?
I know Bob the way that we know Bob, but he's like super super
sorry.
cavalier. Like,
so sorry.
hey, can you be super excited for Keller scoring a goal? Thanks.
How'd Ethan get it?
Did you text him?
Ethan
You
loves
did not
puck.
have Bob
Blue?
in there.
Blue chat.
Bob's somewhere in there.
You
He
don't
is.
have him in here.
mean,
You have Bob Costas, Bob H, Bob
check the
Ryan, Bob
W's, it's somewhere
Snyder,
around
two
there.
Bob Snyders,
Yeah, I like
Bobby
Bobby.
Benson,
Yeah.
Bobby
That was my last
Carpenter,
name.
Bobby
Bobby
Van
Carp.
Kirk.
Nice.
Bobby Carpenter, yeah.
You can ask Bob, is Ethan Badowski too comfortable?
There's just a Bob. Maybe it's him. Who's just Bob?
You have to go to the W's. I don't know who Bob is. That's a good question. It could be anybody.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let's text that person.
Bob?
Yeah. Oh, you have a PR agent for Bob Saget. You might be able to get rid of that one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Unless he has
never
another
know who else
person.
they're representing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Run a Google.
I'm going to reach out to Bob Washuzin once I find it.
You don't have his
don't
number.
have
We
it, I
just
don't
went.
think.
No, he's a good friend. I have
Maybe
it
he's under
somewhere.
I'm sure
Robert.
it is, yeah.
Yeah,
He
Robert
is.
Washuzin.
Just like Kenny Albert, huh?
Kenny's a very good friend.
That
Yeah.
is true.
That is
Yes.
true.
That
is
that
actually
is
true.
yeah.
Kenny
He's-
is a good
He's
friend.
delivered Kenny
Yeah.
Albert before.
He's good on hockey too.
Yes.
He's
Top
great
10?
on hockey.
Yeah, one of the
He's
better
the
voices
18.
going contemporary. Yeah, he's the 18 for Turner.
I would say
right?
Kenny and
Yes.
Marv are both in the top 10 in terms of hockey voices of all time. Yeah, Marv was
disrespect.
fabulous at hockey.
The Bob disrespect right now is just.
I think Bob would tell you the same thing. He's your friend. Ask him.
Yeah, he's very humble. That's what I like so much about I value that about our friendship.
Do you?
Yeah, he's so down to earth and humble.
Huh?
You got Sam Rosen's number in there?
I don't have Sam Rose's number. You just trying to book guests for your hockey show?
Yes, I am.
I'll get you Kenny Albert.
Oh, thanks.
I'll get back to you on Bob Washuzin.
Okay.
I'll let you know on Al Arbor. Is Al Arbor
he's
still
not.
with us?
No, he's not.
Oh,
Is that a real
man.
name?
That is the largest of fines. I owe $50. I just killed Al Arbor, who passed away in 2015, one of the all-time great coaches in hockey history. I have a question for you guys. What do you do when you are offered great seats to a big game? You don't have to pay for the seats, but the person who is offering you said seats is someone that you don't want to really spend 3 hours with.
I hope they don't listen to this.
I don't care. Multiple people have offered me tickets. I'm not going to out myself. I'm not going to do it. I'm just asking, what do you do in that situation?
Stugotz, I have a suggestion.
Big game, great seats. I don't have to pay for the seats.
What's
I'm
the
just
game?
not certain I want to spend the Met game.
Which
Friday
one?
night.
Friday
Can't believe
night.
You're
Yeah.
saying this about Pablo. Like it's just really disrespectful.
You want to spend 3 hours? Stugotz, here's something that you can do if you don't want to spend 3 hours with Pablo.
Okay.
And look, you're a successful man. You just buy your own tickets. Where do you buy your own tickets?
Huh.
You download the Game Time app,
Yeah!
Stugotz. You create an account. I'm sure you already have an account, so maybe this doesn't apply to you, but maybe it applies to people in our audience. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DAN, that is DAN, for $20 off your first purchase. You can get great tickets. Sometimes closer to the first pitch, prices even go down, and they got a little button that you can press that says all-in pricing. That way you see all the full price up front, so there are no surprises at checkout. You can even have a panoramic seat view of what your view would look like from that seat. So again, download Game Time today. Chris, Cody, what time is it?
Game time?
Stugotz, what time is it?
Game time. Taylor just texted me.
Is it about Sam Rosen?
He has Sam Rosen's number because his dad used to cut his hair.
I looked up Sam Rosen. Man, his dad was doing the Lord's work. That hair requires some special care, I would say. It's not a standard haircut on Sam Rosen.
Huh.
Yeah.
Still trying to find Bob's number. Let you guys know when I get it. So what do you do in that spot?
To answer your question, Stu, you just got to
Thank
wear
you.
it. You just got to hit him with, oh, that's crazy. Just a lot of that's crazy, and just let him talk, you know? And just be like, oh, well, what a game.
But you're not even going to be in New York.
Well,
so
no,
there's an easy out.
Well, that's true. I could say I'm just not making it up for the trip, but I kind of want to go to the game. It's a great seat. The seat is for free.
Yeah, but just tell this person, hey, I don't think I'm going to make it I'm not going to make it. You know, offer it to someone else, and then if you want to go, just buy your own tickets.
No, I think I figured it out.
Okay.
You accept the ticket, you make
Right.
the trip up, and you just tell the person when you get in front of them, I have like a really bad earache right now.
What?
So I can't.
I'm being in a loud stadium.
I can't
with
like
screaming
talk
people.
a lot. I can't communicate. Like we just.
And then what?
Then you're just awkwardly sitting with someone you don't want to be with. Is it the conversation
Well, no,
you're
hold
afraid
on.
of?
Hold on. I want to play this out. But then, okay, earache. Are you going home?
No,
What do you-
I couldn't miss this game. It's a
No,
big
I know.
game.
I know. But so how do you like?
I just my ears. So
But-
I'm not going to be able to.
But
I
your
can't-
seat. Oh. So you just lay the
it
groundwork.
hurts to
Therefore, there's no
hear-
conversation.
It hurts to conversate
Right.
right now.
But that's what I don't understand. Do you not want to be with the person, or you don't want to have a conversation with the person?
I don't know if I could spend 3 to 4 hours with a person. And then what happens is if you accept an expensive ticket, good seat to a big game, there's probably the expectation of future plans, you know?
Like, are you supposed to take them to dinner before?
And perhaps I'm overthinking this, but I'm just thinking, like, you can't take the ticket and then blow the guy off the next time he asks you to have a drink.
How well do you know this person?
Pretty well.
Pretty well?
Yes.
How often do you see this person? If you go to New York, do you see
This
person?
would be the first time I have said yes to any sort of plans he's put in front of me in like a decade. And so I'm clearly just doing it for the ticket. And then the next time he asks me to do something that doesn't involve me going to a game for free, I'm going to say no.
Is it Kenny Banya? Like, who is this person?
Yeah. Great reference, Billy.
We have a working theory back here. We have a working theory back here.
Who it is?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, take a guess.
Are you concerned for how often they go out into the sun?
No.
All right, so it's not Sid.
Just go to the game with Matt Sullivan.
He hasn't known him for a decade. The decade is really the key here because he hasn't known Pablo for
That's
a
the
decade
kicker,
either.
yeah.
But
Right,
also,
yeah,
like,
true.
I don't think you have an accurate concept of time, so you may
You're
say,
right.
like, I've known Pablo for 15 years.
One of my best friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it your brother?
It is not my brother. No. I wish it was my brother.
Huh.
It's not my brother.
Bob was choosing.
They listen to
It's
this
not
show.
Bobby. No, he's got a hockey game to call.
How good are the seats?
We asked Bob.
Very good.
We asked Bob in our hockey chat. I said, Bob, Stugotz is claiming he's your friend.
Yeah.
We're calling BS. Would you say you are friends with Stugotz? Bob responded, who is Stugotz?
Ah, good. Classic Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What a
yeah.
mensch.
That's how we treat each other. I mean,
Exactly.
if you asked me, if I was in the chat, you asked me if I knew Bob, I would tell you the same thing. Bob's like, hey, Stugotz, my best friend. Stugotz, you know Bob? Who's Bob?
Yeah, that's what friends do.
You know what hockey fans are saying? Who's Bob?
Oh,
I
I don't know why you want to have beef with Bob Wischusen. You're doing this to yourself.
I'm lashing. He's the voice of the Jets. I'm lashing.
B-Team
out.
Bob, yeah.
B-
Team Bob.
the B and Bob.
Everyone taking shots here. Clearly not in a group chat. You're just lashing out.
No, I
You're always
got green text.
clearly lashing out because he's got green
I got
text.
green text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm jealous I'm not in the hockey group chat. I got to be honest.
No, you're not. The
You're not.
volume on it is crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
It's all Ethan.
Is it?
Yeah, it's pretty.
Poor Bob.
It just goes late into the night. Like you don't want to hear observation. Maybe you do, but if you want to hear observations about Utah Hockey Club versus Calgary Flames at 2 a.m. in the morning, this chat is for you.
How'd you meet this person that invited you to this game?
I mean, they're a friend.
No, but like how? Like through what?
Why are you being so
channels?
weird around this?
Yeah,
dude?
I don't understand.
I'm not being weird about it. I just
Just tell us
asked
who
you
your
guys
friend
what
is.
you would do. It's my cousin.
Your cousin.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
All right. So, and you haven't spoken to your cousin really all that much in 10 years?
Yeah.
There have been like pretty seminal family things that have
It's a
happened.
Georgie Lynott situation. Like, why are we not talking?
Those things happen. You're right, Mike. But those things happen during COVID. So I'm worried about the 3 hours of getting through, like, conversationally, and
You can
I guess I could
BS
just
your
go-
way around that.
I get well.
Just talk Mets. You're going to be there to watch your favorite
No,
team.
I think Chris
Yeah, you've
nailed
been
it with the
watching them.
earache. I mean,
I'm with Stugotz though. Cousins are overrated.
What?
Or you can
wow,
say,
put that on the poll. Cousins, overrated, underrated.
It's just like
Yeah.
it's always an obligation.
Yeah.
here's the
especially
plan.
a third cousin. Yeah.
Here's the plan.
Wow, you can marry that person.
Just say that you're one of
Really?
those guys that
What?
likes to listen to play-by-play while you're at the game. Wear headphones.
Oh
Exactly.
my God, I like to.
Tell him you got to listen to
I
Booth.
need to listen to Bob Wischusen.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's your move. You bring it back.
Well, that's why I asked
Take
you
a
guys. Thank
scorecard.
you.
Take a
Right.
scorecard.
Yes.
Do both things.
Right.
And a glove on one hand, just in case a foul ball comes up there. You can have
Yeah,
the.
exactly. Despite the net going around the entire.
No, guys,
foul
we're
territory.
talking about a Mets game. Where are you guys at?
How good
Come
is
on,
your
catch up.
How good is your relationship with your cousin?
It was better before I brought this up.
Well, is it bad enough that or is it good enough that it can recover? Like you take the ticket and you sell the ticket, and then you buy 2 tickets to like worse seats.
Ooh, a little
He'll switcheroo. Yeah.
resale.
You pick the flight up. You're not just gonna do the one game. You're gonna do 2 games, right?
I would want to go.
It's Friday. He'd have to go up early because it's
Yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
Well, then why don't you just do do they play on back-to-back nights? Do they play Saturday? Do
No,
that?
no.
The
Wednesday,
the
Thursday,
next
Friday.
3 are at City Field. So tonight, tomorrow, Friday night.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Those
I don't
ga-
pay attention.
Those you're just paying attention to hockey.
I had the game last night. The great, a lot of fight from the guards. Climb back into that one. Garrett Cole, though, is who we thought he was. I had it on mute
Yeah.
on the second.
He's one of the few living aces that we have left.
A lot of people say the LCS doesn't start till Game 3 anyway, so you're fine.
That's
Mike.
what I always say.
You see what Aaron Judge said last night? Aaron Judge had a big home run in the 7th inning, 2-run homer.
What'd he say?
He said the ghosts were pulling the ball out there.
I heard
He hit it to
that.
Monument
Really?
Park.
I
Yeah.
heard that.
Said
Really?
It was a windy night. He said the ghosts were pulling it to Monument Park.
Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Is Josh Naylor
So
getting
stupid.
bigger? Because
Yep.
it's been a little bit.
That was so nice
He
of
is
Babe
getting
Ruth
bigger,
and
yeah?
Luke Gehrig. I mean, who's getting bigger?
Josh Naylor?
You know who that is?
No idea.
I barely know her.
Oh, boy. I remember Josh Naylor.
Oh, boy.
When the Marlins drafted him, I saw him. And I
He's
was
a
like-
Marlin?
No,
He's a former Marlin?
Yeah, he was. They drafted him, and he did like one of those. He did one of those like high school come to the stadium like showcase things. The guy in high school was hitting balls into the upper deck in right field. I was like, oh my gosh, like this guy's a beast. And of course, like got rid of him before he even hit the bigs. Yeah, I'm gonna look up who we traded him for because I'm sure it paid off.
Is it difficult watching these LCS games, seeing Jazz and
Yes,
now Josh
it is.
Naylor? It is difficult.
Well, Josh Naylor has less of a connection too.
Jazz has to be tricky for you though, because you like Jazz.
I did like Jazz. He has stupid play getting picked off, but whatever.
Are you rooting for the Yankees because of Jazz?
No, I am not doing that. I don't like the Yankees. I will not root for the Yankees.
You like the Mets?
I don't like anyone in general.
Okay.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by Smirnoff. We do game days. Please drink responsibly. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York.
How early is too early for holiday shopping?
I would say, I get mine done late. That should not be a shock to anyone.
You get them done late, or somebody that you pay gets them done late?
Somebody gets them done late because I don't tell them until later.
he
I
does
would
pay his wife in a roundabout fashion.
I would say September's too early. Once you get into October, fair game.
Really?
Fair game in October.
Just to get going, you know, a little shopping here or there.
Why do you have yours done? Because that would surprise no one here.
No, but I got like 2 weeks ago in the mail Amazon's like toy book for the holidays. And I thought that it was weird to be getting it at the start of October. But like, you know how Toys R Us RIP doesn't exist. It exists in like Macy's or whatever. But like they used to send like their big toy book and you like go through like as a kid and you like circle like what you wanted and like I don't know about
The
you guys,
catalog,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I would go and I'd cut it out and I'd paste it to a piece of paper and then I'd send my letter off to Santa Claus with a picture of it so he knew exactly how to instruct his elves to build the toys so that it'd look like the ones that they sold in the store.
Right.
So Amazon now has like a similar thing where they send you like a big like toy book and it came in October and for me that felt a little bit early.
Feels about right, I guess. I
think the earliest that I've bought a gift for like Christmas, holiday season, whatever, is June or July. And it's like I saw something that I felt like this is good for someone, but I have no reason to give them a gift. It'd be weird.
It's a little
to just,
stash away.
Yeah, like exactly right. Like you said, like your friend, your cousin, whoever, like offered you this ticket, right? But like
Yeah.
you don't talk to them often enough. It's like, hey, I just got you a little. I'm thinking of you gift. You know what I mean? Like, but there's been like a couple instances where I saw something that I'm like, oh, this is like a really good gift for like X person. I'm gonna get this. So then I don't have to worry about it at the end of the year. And like that happened like June or July. That's the earliest. And I just put it in the closet and I came back and I got it. But I don't do actual regular shopping until like December. I even miss Black Friday a lot of times. So I thought October was
You know what,
really
Billy?
early.
Black Friday's not what it used to be.
It's really not.
Really?
Every day is kind of Black Friday. You're
It's-
getting deals all over the place. Best Buy,
Yeah.
these places all have TVs for $17. And then you go to Black Friday and it's like, oh, the TVs. And I was like, how many TVs can I buy?
Yeah.
I have 14 TVs in my house. What else do you want?
Yeah.
So you're saying they're running a scam by calling it Black Friday?
Yeah,
still,
back
right?
in the day,
No.
it used to mean something. But
used
now,
to- yeah.
but now with Amazon, but now with the internet, it's what are you going to go to the store for? To do what? To get a
Right.
headache with all the other people that don't know that you can just order stuff on Amazon?
No, I
Yeah.
think you're right. It feels like every day is Black Friday.
Well, no, then
Yeah.
like Amazon started having like a Prime Day in July, and now there's just like a Prime Week in October. So it's just there's constant like just hey Black
Deals everywhere.
Yeah, before it was Black Friday and that was it. And really, like if you like look into Black Friday, their deals aren't really that special. It's
Right.
just kind of like new signage. Like when I used to work in like retail, we'd put out like new signs for Black Friday. I'm like, it's cheaper 2 weeks ago. Like it just come 2 weeks ago, and the sign was just.
They just put the numbers in red now.
Exactly right. Yeah.
I can tell you that when my kids were growing up, it was a very dangerous game getting toys or anything too early. Because if you got them too early, by the time you got to the holiday season, that toy was out and something else was in.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, back in the day when you were buying toys, for children to give from you, not from Santa, because and they all spilled that. We've gone
Sure,
over that.
yes.
But like, if you wanted to like get the one gift from mommy and daddy to your child, you had to want it. You had to earn it. You had to get up at the crack of dawn. You had to go rush the crowds. Like you had to be like in Jingle All the Way. Like
It's
you had
too
to go
easy
get
now.
Turbo Man.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly
yeah,
right. Like
yeah.
you had to fight to get it. Like you wanted a Furby, like. You're gonna come out bloody, but you're gonna get that Furby.
Exactly right.
Maybe.
Especially if it was the one that was kind of tie-dye or had the spots on it that was kind of rare. You had to get that out of somebody else's
work
hands.
for it. Now there's just a ton of everything.
Hey, 4 clicks and it gets sent to your house, and then it's like, okay.
Okay, now follow up question in terms of holiday shopping because
4 clicks.
I don't like a lot. I don't like a lot of things, so I'm hard to shop for.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like a lot of things, but like I don't desire a lot of things. I don't it's like, oh, I really need XYZ thing or whatever. And if it's something that I want, I just go and I get it. Right? So like by the time like holiday season comes, I already have the things that I want because I've just gone and like purchased
What's
them.
something that you went out and got? You were like, this is for daddy. He's getting it, and it doesn't matter.
No one's going to buy it for me. I'm going to buy it for myself.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
What was the last thing you did with that?
Well, I have a thing coming out this week that I said to my wife, like, hey, I think I want to get this. And she told me, holiday season's coming around the corner. Why don't you like wait so people then have something to get for you? And I'm like, because I have to wait 2 months.
Right, I want it now.
I want
Right.
it now.
I want get me something else.
I don't want to wait 2 months for that. Like that's someone else's problem to figure out.
But Tony, I do that all the time. Like I purchased Dead & Company tickets to the Sphere. My wife's like, again? And I'm like, holiday gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
It's
okay,
a little
but, like,
something for me.
Here's the thing. If I understand if she's making this request in like December, like, hey, why don't you just wait? But like October okay. I
You're
haven't-
unhinged right now.
No, because I had this conversation with my wife yesterday, and I was kind of like frustrated with the situation. So like, I don't get myself a lot of things. I don't crave a lot of things. So then I was told like,
Mike
hey-
had better conversations with his wife yesterday. He was talking about goalie goals. I mean, anyway, sorry. Back to you, Billy.
Well, no. So like, so there's a Nintendo Switch game that's coming out. It's a new edition of Mario Party. I love a Mario Party. We got a Nintendo Switch, and I said we're gonna be the fun couple that has like game nights that we have other.
How many
couples
game
come
nights
over.
have you had?
0. COVID happened like as soon as we got the Nintendo Switch, and we're like, we're not gonna have people over. We're gonna get COVID. And then we just like started having kids, and it's like, well, you're not gonna come over after 6. My kids are asleep. You're not gonna wake them up. It's gonna be hell getting them back to sleep. So like we've had, I think maybe like 2 game nights that just get interrupted. So like our game nights are like game mid-afternoons and then get the hell out of my house so I can put my kids to sleep. So anyways, I wanted to get like a new Mario Party. Suppose this one's great. It comes out and then you can play against people online, whatever. And I was like, you know what? Maybe we'll be the game night family again. We'll invite people over and it'll be a whole thing. Tony can come over with his wife.
Thank
They
you.
can bring their crying kid over when the kid's born. It'll be a whole thing, right? But like I have annoying kids too. So
And
like,
you have dogs.
They all be no, dogs get put away when we have company. They're too big.
okay.
Yeah, they run amok. They jump around. They get too excited when they see strangers. They don't attack. These aren't attack dogs that protect the house. They see strangers, they get excited, and they want to start licking you and like jumping on top of you, and it's like
That's probably
become a
better than
nuisance.
attacking people that walk in your house.
Yes.
I prefer
a
the
loving
attack.
dog.
No,
Yes.
I prefer the attacks, honestly.
Oh,
Do you?
Yeah, no, I do.
Really?
I want a dog that's guarding my house, not welcoming in criminals.
That's
because
the issue.
My dogs aren't discerning. They don't know who's a criminal and who's like a good person.
But eventually they know, don't they? I mean, if you
yeah,
have
but
the same
event-
people over,
you need to instantly know when a criminal comes into the house. It's not eventually. Like, what is the
Right.
criminal? What if the criminal
there's no feeling out process.
woos my dogs, comes in, has a couple dog treats, pets
I
my dog on
understand.
the head, then they
Okay.
like help the criminal start packing things into the sacks. They go
Sure.
out and they walk the
Right.
criminal to the car, close the door, make sure the alarm's on again. Like that's not what I need from the dog. I need the dog to I need instant attack mode from the dogs,
Got
and
it.
then we slowly get into loving you.
Okay.
So in that spirit, we put the dogs away so that they don't attack people with love.
I don't like that.
What?
It's a dog's house. I mean,
That's Billy's house.
I'm with you. No, well,
Dogs are not paying
it's
the
become
bills
the
here,
dog's
so.
house.
I have a
Yeah.
dog. I mean, my dog owns my bed. My dog owns me.
If you're breaking into houses, you just have to have bologna on you.
Just throw it the other way.
Do dogs like bologna?
Oh, my dog.
Put that on the poll. If you break into a house, do you have to have bologna
That used
on
to
you?
be the trick to get my dog. I used to have, before Riley, we had a dog named Sandy, and it was like untrained and would just sprint out of the house, and we'd have to go
Like
catch
Charlie?
it. No, Charlie and Riley, like they stay in the house, but we would, bologna. If you just wave a little bologna at Sandy, she'd come running right over to you.
Sure.
The trick.
Dogs are easy to win over.
Yes.
Like you can very easily win the dog over. The problem is when you run out of bologna, what do you do?
Get more bologna.
Out of luck.
Go in the fridge.
You can bring anything, though, right? I mean, dogs will eat anything.
There
That's-
are some
that is
things,
the-
though, that they get excited about. Like, not everything will get them super
I don't like
excited.
bologna.
Me neither.
I'm not a dog.
I can't
though.
stand bologna.
I mean, I am a dog.
But it seems like a good
Not a
use of
cat.
bologna.
Evil cat.
I mean,
Salami's better.
Yeah. What like
bologna.
This is a dumb question. What animal does bologna come from?
That's
Pig.
from your lips, man.
You said that with
Yeah,
a lot
pig's
of
lips. There you
confidence.
go.
Are you
Because
sure?
I want to say it's a mix of a lot of things.
It's like a hot dog.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of pig, a little bit of cow, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Like an
Bam,
unpackaged
bologna.
hot dog.
Huh.
Yeah, it's
It's
exactly
like a
what it
hot
is.
dog just like beaten
It's like
down
the
with a hammer.
inside of a hot dog, just sliced up.
When's the last time you had a bologna sandwich?
It's gross.
Little
bologna.
mustard.
20 years ago?
Couple pieces of white bread right? when I was a kid.
Pork sausage. I'm looking this up. Bologna has always grossed me out, even as a kid.
Same.
Like when bologna sandwiches were made for lunch, like I think my mom used to make my sister bologna sandwich. I was like, no, it's like too wet and like thick. It's like bologna. We've done this before, Stugotz, especially on Mystery Crate. Things are for other people. Bologna for other people.
Really?
Not for
I'll
me.
add that to the list.
Not for me.
Every kid had that traumatic experience where they bite into a bologna sandwich, and then all of a sudden a mysterious hard part of the bologna would end up in your teeth, and you're wondering, what is that?
Yeah.
The hoof.
Yeah.
So is bologna like Colby Jack meat?
Yes.
I love Colby Jack cheese.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, I
Little
love
white,
it.
little yellow.
Exactly right.
There's really not any cheese I don't like.
Really?
Yeah.
Not like a strong what? What were you looking at?
I don't know what you just said, dude.
What happened?
Like blue cheese.
Talking about cheese here.
Like that strong blue family
Yeah.
of cheeses.
Super
I just-
strong
I like
blue
all
cheese.
cheeses.
I'm good, yeah, I'm good.
Super strong blue cheese and in it for me. I get why people like it. But
Charcuterie
It's
board.
for other people.
if it's on the charcuterie board, I'll find some of the other cheeses.
Should I just wait now 2 months for getting the thing that I want, or,
No.
or
Yeah,
should
probably.
I just like
I
buy
think-
it and
Nah.
like?
Get it when you want to get it, man.
That's what I'm thinking too. But then realistically, like, how often am I actually going to use it between now and then? Is it worth basically is it worth the fight and worth the headache? That's really what
It's
all.
never worth the fight.
Okay, that's honestly, if you're out there and you're listening to this, marriage is all about, is this worth the fight? Right? Every decision that you make in marriage is this worth the fight?
Sometimes it's
You're
talking
right.
about Ron Hextall and empty netters.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow, I am so jealous of you and your wife's relationship.
That's a
good-
healthy
That's a good
relationship.
relationship. That's a good relationship.
You talked Hextall. Yes, that is what marriage is all about. Is it worth it? Do I go in this time? Do I make a big deal about something I know I'm right about, but eventually I'm not going to be right because she's always right?
It's not just that, but I start thinking, like, I want to get this game. I think it'll be fun. I think everyone will enjoy it. My kids, my wife, and we have Tony comes over, his family. We have a family game night. We play a little Mario Party, right? Maybe we get online. We talk to other people with Switches we play. Like, it's a whole thing. It can be fun, right? But, like, if I'm only going to play it 4 times before December, was it worth the fight? And I'm starting to think it's not worth the fight if I'm only going to have time to play it 4 times before December.
It's never worth the fight.
Yeah, sometimes.
I don't know if it's ever worth the fight.
No, not
You're never going to
necessarily.
win the fight. I mean, it's why I don't bring up half the stuff to Dan that I want to bring up to him.
What?
It ain't worth it. I mean,
About video games or just general other stuff?
Game
it's a
night.
general.
Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Stugotz, you're a big blue cheese guy, right?
I love blue cheese.
But I know you like the dipping sauce blue cheese.
Yes.
But do you like actual blue cheese? I'm talking about
like crumbled?
a big crumbled veiny piece of blue cheese. It
Always
looks like-
so veiny.
it's
Why
like-
is it veiny?
Veiny. It looks like Maggie Smith's skin.
There's one
Oh,
there's
rest
one
in
place I
peace.
like it. Steakhouse iceberg lettuce. That's where I like it.
Yeah, the
Crumbled blue cheese
contrast.
with bacon. Yeah.
I think the appeal of that kind of blue cheese is indeed the contrast. So if you pair it with something cold and crunchy and blander in taste, it pairs well.
That is funny because it's the only time I will order blue cheese with anything, and that's at like a nice steakhouse with a wedge.
Right.
Everything else,
I'll
ranch.
go out of my way to say I don't want the blue cheese for other stuff, but for
Yes.
that, it works perfectly.
I'm not going salad. You know me. Steakhouse. I'm going French onion soup.
Overrated.
No, it's not.
You're overrated.
I am so with you. I am so with you on this.
It's more of a cheese soup than it is a French onion soup.
No,
It isn't
No,
cheese.
it's not.
cheese on the
It's
top.
a bowl of
It's a combination.
cheese.
Everything in the center is like
good percentage.
watery
Oh,
bread.
you want a cheese soup? Go to Epcot in the Canadian Steakhouse there.
Delicious.
It's not a cheap cheese soup. It's a French onion soup.
I will take it one step further. There's not enough cheese, Tony.
Wow.
Once I get through that layer, that's what makes it overrated to me because I get down to the broth and it's just broth and onions. I don't
Like
want
that
that.
soggy
Right.
piece of bread in there. Like, what is
Right.
that?
I can't stand it. You've never been more right about anything.
Put that bread in like right before you bring it out. Okay, I still want to be able to taste that thing.
We can all agree lobster bisque is the best of the soups, right?
No way. No,
No,
you
it's
cannot
a great
agree.
soup.
It's a
Yeah.
strong
It's a
soup.
great soup.
I would say
strong
matzo ball soup with noodles is up there for me. Classic
Two
chicken
Americas.
noodle. Yeah.
America's
New England clam chowder,
Yeah, it's
strong.
America's, yeah.
Clam
You like
chowder,
New England
strong.
clam chowder more than lobster bisque?
Yes.
Exactly.
The red or
no,
the white?
there's a bit of a weight there.
Nobody likes
Can
Manhattan.
never remember that.
Little split pea.
No,
Well, bacon.
I'm not.
Always with bacon.
It's
Roy.
just I think Exorcist.
Do you really?
Yeah. It is solid with bacon in it, but I have other soups that compared to French onions. French onion soup is essentially the Bob Wischusen of soups.
Yes.
B team.
Really?
No, not the B team. Tomato soup. I mean, tomato soup.
That's
might-
overrated.
Gotta have a
Tomato
grilled cheese.
soup is not
Gotta have a
overrated.
grilled
Good
cheese,
point.
though.
Grilled cheese.
Half of a grilled cheese, little cup of tomato soup.
a little
Little dip.
accoutrement.
So good. Yeah.
I'll
What
dip
is that?
anything in there.
Whatever that is, yes.
A little
Anything?
accoutrement.
Anything.
Anything?
I'll dip anything in there.
I don't think anything.
Hey.
I meant what I meant.
What do we
Dip this
think?
in there.
I will. I don't know how to transition out of this into the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Overrated.
What do you make of that decision?
Mike Tomlin, yes, overrated.
Whoa! No!
Mike Tomlin,
Underrated.
forever underrated.
Let me tell you, I am tired of Mike Tomlin skating by because he goes 9-8 every year.
What are you even talking about? You regularly
taking
say
these
he's the
mediocre
best coach
teams
in
in
the
the playoffs.
NFL.
On
your
Like,
left.
Your whole
That
take
was-
has been he's the best coach in the NFL.
That was then. This is now. I have grown tired of Mike Tomlin. I mean, the guy goes 8-8, 9-8, and he's skating by. And
On your left.
He's won one Super Bowl. He should have won more. He hasn't done much in the playoffs in the last 10 years.
He's taking these mediocre, terrible Pittsburgh Steelers teams to the playoffs.
That's his trick. He has tricked us into thinking he's a great
should
great
have won
communicator. He is a great communicator.
Great
I
leader
would
of
take
men.
him a great leader of men. I would take him as my head coach. But again, I'm a Jets fan.
but he should have won more. Is your take?
High floor, low ceiling.
I don't think there's
No.
ever been a playoff
What?
in which he's entered where he's the favorite and hasn't won. I don't think he's ever the favorite.
Never going to be that bad with him, but he's not going to. I don't know if he can.
He
get
did
there
it once.
floor.
He made it to a second one.
He won a Super Bowl with Ben. He made it to a second with Ben. Didn't win it.
No, he lost to Aaron Rodgers, who was
Correct.
a demigod that playoff run. He
Yes.
was incredible.
It was the best playoff run I've ever seen.
It
From a
was all on the
quarterback.
road,
Yes,
right? He
yes.
beat
Yes.
playoff. He beat
Yes.
the Atlanta Falcons in the dome, and then he had an injury to Donald Trump. Like he was doing this stuff with James Starks and Jordy Nelson. Like he was just
was crazy.
unbelievable
Yeah.
that run.
To the Pittsburgh Steelers point, I think that Tomlin has been aided by never having the weight of expectations to be the best team because he's always had Peyton, he's always had Tom Brady, he's always had somebody else to be the scapegoat of.
He still does.
Oh, they didn't get exactly
Stroud.
Oh, they didn't get. Pittsburgh was the number one seed. They have Big Ben, they have AB, they have all these guys, and they couldn't get it done. It's always like they're always the scrappy underdog. Peyton didn't get it done. Tom Brady lost. Joe Flacco and Baltimore Ravens. So like he's always lived in a very perfect existence of we're gonna sit in like the 3 to 4 to 5 seed. We're gonna make some noise in the playoffs, but we're not gonna be ever as good to beat the better teams to make it to the Super Bowl.
He's an all-timer. The two best things that you could say about a coach is he maximizes talent and he gets his players to play hard for him. And you could always say that. There was one time where the narrative around him was like, maybe it's time for him to go. And it was when Antonio Brown was having a meltdown on his team, and that was before everyone kind of knew what was going on with Antonio Brown, and he came out of that. So Mike Tomlin, I can't say enough good things about him. He's a great coach.
The most impressive thing Mike Tomlin has done was having a winning record in 22 and 23 with Kenny Pickett starting 12 games.
I know, but that's the trick.
Are you suggesting that he's
Do it with
intentionally-
Mahomes.
Hold on a sec. Wait, what?
Kenny Pickett might be one of the worst quarterbacks we've seen in the last 6 years.
Are you suggesting that he intentionally has bad teams so he could just finish 500 and people can say he's great at his job?
Well, I made that accusation of Kyle Shanahan doing that in San Francisco with Garoppolo and Brock Purdy.
He doesn't really have personnel power the way that Belichick did, the way that other coaches of his time did.
Right.
He had some influence. Clearly, he has some influence over the quarterbacks on his roster right now. I think you can criticize him for this decision. It's a little bit weird. I mean, Justin Fields' advanced stats stack up quite well. If you look at his PFF grade, this was a guy that he was getting the most out of, and I understand having Russell Wilson on your roster as a backup has got to be kind of a weird situation.
Well,
to
he named him the
navigate.
starter before the season. He just wasn't healthy.
Right.
It's a weird situation.
It's
to
also
navigate.
very tempting to put him in, Mike, when he's healthy.
But
it is. Just to see if there's something left.
Certainly, if Fields is playing poorly. Now, I know Fields isn't on the best stretch right now, but I don't think Fields has done enough to lose that job. It's a curious decision, but you got to kind of trust. I think Mike Tomlin's earned a certain level of trust here.
Mina was saying that Justin Fields' stats this year are better than what Russell's were the last time we saw him.
Right.
That's factual.
He has to be better than he was the last time we saw him for this to be a good move, basically.
But Fields, I mean, we've seen the ceiling. This is it. This is what Justin Fields is. You think he's going to get better than where he is right now?
Potentially, yeah.
I know, but
still
we've been
think he's
waiting for
growing.
that forever with him.
But I do think that there's been some improvement year over year, and I do think that he's shown some good stuff in a Steelers uniform. So I don't know what he's done to lose the job, but I also don't know what Mike Tomlin has seen throughout camp and in practice right now to make him believe that this is the right move. It's a big time move, certainly.
It's also an interesting point in their season, right? They're playing the Jets, Giants, Commies in the next 3 games.
Yep.
But then they go a stretch run of Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Browns. So you have 4 divisional games back to back to back to back. And it's like, are you sure that throwing in Russell, who hasn't seen action in 6 weeks, to be able to gear up for those divisional games with the Ravens, the Browns twice, and the Bengals is kind of a weird spot.
I think the last time we saw Russell Wilson was an improvement over the first time we saw him in a Broncos uniform. I think Sean Payton kind of figured out what to do with this kind of player, which is lean on your defense, play complementary football. And if we're looking at it that way, Russell Wilson can do just fine as a Steelers starting quarterback, and they can do what they've been doing the last few years, which is navigate a deficiency at the quarterback position, play complementary football, and find a way to come out of the stadium alive and not blink.
Right, losing the first round. But I think with Justin Fields, what he sees is I can't get past Lamar Jackson, and I can't get past Josh Allen, and I can't get past Patrick Mahomes or C.J. Stroud, and maybe, just maybe, if there's something left in the tank with Russell Wilson, that guy has enough upside where just maybe I can win a playoff game or two.
See, that's where you lose me. I think the upside argument is with Justin Fields.
Really?
I really do. And I think Justin Fields is probably got the skill
but-
set that is more likely to upset one of those quarterbacks that you rattled off in the first round by doing things with his feet, getting the ball downfield. Ultimately, it's a game of real estate acquisition, playing complementary football. I think his arm can be live at times. Look, they're not going to be stretching the field. That's not Pittsburgh Steelers football.
No.
But I do like the dynamic of the quarterback also being able to be a legitimate running threat, certainly in more profound ways than Russell Wilson can be at this stage in his career.
But if you guys think that Mike Tomlin is such a great coach, and I understand, it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. He is a great coach, slightly overrated.
On the grounds that he
But if you
just
think
has one title?
We call Mike Tomlin one of the great coaches in NFL history, and he's got 1 Super Bowl. I mean, we don't do that with anyone else. I mean, we don't.
0 losing seasons?
Mike McCarthy has 1 Super Bowl.
Yeah, he
I
beat
fought
Mike
through that.
Tomlin.
Yeah.
If you want to,
And Mike McCarthy's a joke.
if you want to have an indictment of Mike Tomlin's career, is that he lost the Super Bowl against Mike McCarthy.
Well, but this is all I'm saying. If you guys think he is such a great coach, he sees Justin Fields and Russell Wilson every day in practice. He's making this decision.
Yeah, we're just talking it out. Ultimately,
Okay. I love talking it out, by the way.
Ultimately, Mike Tomlin has more information on the players than anybody else, and he's had a great enough career for me to just say, okay, his coach is entitled to make this decision. I'm a little confused by it because I don't think Justin Fields has lost the job, and I think we all kind of have a feeling we know what Russell Wilson is at this point in his career. But I think they're going to win that game either way against the Jets.
I think the argument would be it was never his job to lose, right? Like he was just filling in. So he didn't lose the job, he just didn't win the job. Like he didn't do enough to keep the job that wasn't given to him at the beginning of the season. I guess could be how Tomlin sees it.
Fair enough point, because like if we're arguing Justin Fields hasn't done anything to lose a job, well, neither did Russell Wilson. Like he had an awkward interaction with the sled.
Fields, Tomlin kept Fields number 2 on the depth chart even while he was starting.
Well, there you go.
It's a master class in not upsetting either quarterback the way he's gone about it. Because what he's doing by doing that is essentially telling Justin, without telling Justin or the media, that when Russell comes back, it's Russell's job. Now, whether or not you think Justin's done enough to keep his job is.
I like the added dynamic of Fields' athleticism, but coach can do what coach wants to do here, and I think. I don't really think, maybe it affects what their ceiling is, but I think that's a playoff team that's going to do the thing where by hook or by crook get into the playoffs and be a really difficult out. Yeah, maybe they get eliminated in the first round. It's a pretty safe bet, but they're going to cover.
Maybe Tomlin is putting Justin Fields on ice for maybe a potential trade. Right? There's teams that could be interested. There's teams that could be interested in Justin Fields. You're right. You give the teams that are interested in a quarterback a little bit of a taste. All right, you went 4-2. He put out some good tape there. They're playing well. All of a sudden, we put Russell Wilson in. People start calling, hey, is Justin Fields available? Is Fields available? Fields available? If not, you do the old switcheroo and you send Russell out of town and you keep Justin Fields.
The old switcheroo is
who's
like maybe you're trying to highlight what Russell Wilson can do still. And maybe a team that had an injury at the position that still thinks that they either need depth there or has a shot at the playoffs. Like maybe they take a flyer on Russell Wilson. He has a pretty good contract to move.
Now you guys got me looking at teams that are a Fields away.
Hey.
Wow.
Who's a Russell Wilson away?
Ooh.
Maybe Pittsburgh, which is why he's going to him, I would believe.
Maybe the Dolphins.
I mean, who is a Fields away or a Wilson away? Not the Bucks.
Dolphins need something.
Bucks are pretty set on the quarterback position. They're doing all right.
The Steelers are a Fields and a Russell's in the way.
Mike, you have a bet on Baker to win the MVP. What are the odds for Baker to win the MVP
plus
right now?
3,000 on DraftKings Sportsbook.
Who's the favorite?
Patrick Mahomes.
Really?
At plus 350.
How?
That's lazy voting.
I mean, if you stack up the head-to-head stats, if we did a blind stat check and I showed you Baker's stats compared to Patrick Mahomes' stats, I think you'd be genuinely confused as to who is who.
Who's Patrick and who's Baker?
Yeah, Baker.
I know who Patrick's is. It's the lesser because he hasn't been good this year from a statistical standpoint at all.
Baker's been really good, and I'm not quite there. I understand the skepticism when it comes to Baker Mayfield because we've seen him be bad. We've seen him be bad with talented teams. We've seen him be totally lost running scout team defensive end for Carolina. I get why people are nervous to go ahead and say this is fully evolved Baker Mayfield. But the second half of last season and the first quarter of this season.
I'm looking at his numbers right now.
He's
amazing.
good, dude.
Yes.
He's good.
Yeah.
And I also think there's this part of it too. The NFL this season, defenses have adjusted. The games haven't been what they once were. There's peaks and valleys when it comes to the NFL. I'm sure they'll make rules to adjust it, and the freewheeling days of exciting NFL will be back in no time. But Bucs games are really fun. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Baker, even though they had a lot of success in the screen game that was matchup dependent, Baker pushes the ball downfield.
He does.
Plays a fun brand of football. Even when he's handing the ball off, guy finds a way 45 yards downfield to lead block. And he's doing it with a team that
can't stop anyone.
Like that.
That's what makes it exciting, though.
Yeah, they need him to
shootouts.
do this, and I think that game in the Superdome was kind of like Brett Favre-esque. He made a lot of mistakes, but guts, guile, airing it out, found a way to get a pretty convincing win despite getting off to a bad start. I would say that you could do a hell of a lot worse than Baker Mayfield for MVP. It's just, can voters and can the general public get over their apprehension when it comes to trusting this player? I think he's kind of fully formed, and he's shown that he can improve. And I think Baker is a legitimate Pro Bowler. And if you're looking at big value when it comes to the MVP discussion, we always look at guys that are leading surprising teams. Even though they were a playoff team last year, maybe they caught lightning in a bottle. People were skeptical. This is a surprising Tampa Bay Bucs team. They're legitimately good. He's legitimately good. 30-1, that's a great price.
Sold.
Wow.
Seriously, that was a great pitch. I mean,
we just need to normalize the discussion that Baker Mayfield is this, and I understand why people are hesitant to. But I would say this guy, his main sin as a quarterback genuinely was playing through injury.
right.
And a lot of people made up their minds about Baker Mayfield, and I understand it got to a toxic place with Baker. And if you wanted to tell me Cleveland had to get rid of him because where things were at with Baker, I understand. I still think that they picked the wrong guys. I still think that they ultimately made the wrong choice, but there is a very sound argument to be made why the Browns needed to separate themselves from Baker Mayfield. But he's figured it out, and he's healthy, and he's improved, and he plays a fun brand of football.
Well, I mean, he is healthy, but I think in the back of your mind, like, you do wonder, because he plays a little recklessly, right? Like, he gets out there and he runs and he'll get hit. You wonder, can he stay healthy? He was healthy all last season, right?
He got smoked on
Yeah,
Sunday.
He got knocked up pretty good, and I've gotten a lot of flack in that. I've had this take about Baker Mayfield that if you dropped him into the mid-90s, people would put him in the top tier of athleticism.
No
because
doubt.
his
Yes.
mobility is a very underrated aspect. I think his rushing stats are also better than Patrick Mahomes this season. And Patrick Mahomes, reputed, yes, we know, great arm, maybe the greatest we've ever seen, but also when his team needs it, can be super mobile. And I would say if you drop Baker Mayfield in the 90s, he is not Steve Young, but he's in like that tier of like upper echelon. He's like a Mark Brunell type.
He's a very good quarterback.
Of athleticism.
Yes, he's a quarterback that can win you a Super Bowl. There's no question.
He's doing
about
more
it.
of that this year, and I can
Yes.
understand why Billy would be a little concerned about his injuries because he is a smaller guy.
Of course.
Like you can't change how he
It's
has
not, it's not that he's like a smaller guy, like in the way that you get worried about like Tua being a smaller guy, right? It's
He's
like
got a bigger frame.
He's
Yeah.
an aggressive guy.
He's aggressive.
He goes after it. Yes.
He's built though. Like
Yes,
he's
yeah.
like a brick house, but he'll take hits.
I love him. Like him winning the MVP would not be a shock to me. Him eventually
be-
winning a Super Bowl would not be a shock to me. But I will say this: Mike is doing a trick here because you're putting him side by side with the greatest quarterback we have in the game, who is not statistically having a great season in Patrick Mahomes. My guess is if you put Kirk Cousins next to Patrick Mahomes, Cousins' numbers would look a lot better than
It's a
Patrick's.
500-yard game,
Cousins
too.
has- Yeah,
I know,
aided
but
by
Patrick's not
500
having a
yarder.
great season. is my point.
I would say I would be shocked if he won the MVP this year. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but I'd be shocked if they gave Baker Mayfield the MVP.
I'd be shocked too. I'm just saying, like, in terms of value on the board on DraftKings Sportsbook, Baker is a solid play. Baker, to my eyes are lying to me because I look at the stats like QBR. QB rating, kind of like a flawed metric. QBR, most professionals that cover the sport swear by that over quarterback rating.
Right.
And Baker's QBR isn't as impressive as you would think. There are guys there that don't necessarily belong that puzzle you, but Mahomes is lower on it. Aaron Rodgers is like a lower tier quarterback according to QBR.
Billy, you walked in this morning, you were glowing, and I think it's because my NFL MVP, Spags, was in studio last week, and we are airing that today. He is the NFL MVP. I mean, they're not doing that because of Patrick Mahomes. They're doing it because of Spags and Chris Jones.
Yeah, you
But
made
you were-
sure to tell him that a lot.
Yes, yeah. You were glowing, though. You were very happy. I mean,
Well, he came. I mean, to be completely transparent, he came in last week on Friday.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
A little Friday afternoon down in town. Chiefs were on a bye. Spags was around. Stugotz talked to Spags.
Yep.
I've kind of always not really believed his relationship with Spags, and then Spags strolled in the door. So much so that like the day before, he's like, Spags is going to come tomorrow, and I'm like, no, he's not. And then he's like, what time should I tell Spags? I'm like, 10:30. And then, 10:30 comes and I'm getting ready to go. And he's like, Spags coming at 11:15. I'm like, we talked about 10:30. No, I don't know how I was going to pick up my children. I
well,
didn't believe
Spags
this
is
was
not
real.
on your schedule. He's on Spags' schedule.
Yeah, I know, but
mean,
like with
Bye
you,
week
there's like,
Spags.
I do.
Spags.
It's my
Yeah,
word association.
Flew right to a hurricane.
When I think of Miami, I think of Spags, so it makes sense.
It's the bye week. He likes to spend time down here. He likes it down here. So we stopped by the studio. It's a special Wednesday edition of God Bless Football, a third episode this week. Here's a little clip of me, Billy, and the NFL MVP, Spags. The last 2 years, I've questioned whether or not your team is going to win the Super Bowl, and you have won the Super Bowl both those years. Would you like me to start doing that again? I mean,
if whatever you did the last 2 years, do the same.
I said something's off in Kansas City. They're not right. They're the team I would want to face in the playoffs. I said that before the playoffs last year, and then you guys went on an historic run because Patrick woke up one day and told his wife, "Hey, I feel like winning a Super Bowl." I mean, it's ridiculous that he can do that.
Yeah, let's keep. I want you to stay consistent, Stugotz. Don't change.
Okay, all right. The Chiefs. There's something off again.
There you go.
Do I like Spags?
He was fun. I
Look at
like
that drip, too.
I like
know.
Spags.
Yeah. You like Spags, Mike. You do.
It's just very,
Is that polo silk?
very surprising.
Yes. Yeah.
Just he's relaxed. Bye week. That's cool. Stugotz and the Smirnoff bottles around you. That's a very relaxing atmosphere. But he came in with like a silk button-down short sleeve, slick back hair, fun, relaxed.
Yes.
I'm falling for
He was
this
very
guy.
chill. Yeah.
Mike, the first time we had Spags on, it was not in person. He was sitting in an office in Kansas City, and he had his draft board behind him and didn't realize that we were taping the whole thing on video.
Yeah.
And so everyone could see his defensive rankings.
It was like 3 days before the draft. He joined us on Zoom right in front of our draft board. Other Spags. What are we doing,
He
buddy?
starts waving his hand so no one can see it. But that was a delight. It was nice to have Spags.
That's a
in here.
great get for God Bless Football.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
hard to get during the season to get a defensive
Very
coordinator, especially of this repute, the top tier guy on his bye week in season to be that relaxed.
Yes.
Only God Bless Football, man.
Yeah, it's easy to be that relaxed when Mahomes is your quarterback and when you have that kind of defense. Like I know Spags is going to want to be a head coach again one day, and perhaps next season he'll get an opportunity if some jobs open up. But why would you leave that job? I tell him that all the time. You're a defensive
Do
coordinator.
you get that feeling from Spags? I haven't heard the interview. I don't know if you've asked him.
No, the first time we had him on, I did ask him, and he said he does have a desire to be a head coach again. And to which I said, well, why would you do that? Because you are the defensive coordinator on the best team in the NFL, and if Andy Reid walks away, perhaps you'll replace him, and you have Patrick Mahomes. Like, sometimes you're just better at being a coordinator than a head coach. He was a head coach. He wasn't great at it. He is the greatest defensive coordinator in the history of the NFL. He's the only coordinator to have 4 Super Bowl rings.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Would you rather pick your middling NFL head coach that maybe has a couple of playoff wins, has been through the job cycle a couple of times, or would you rather be Dick LeBeau,
Right.
considered the greatest coordinator at his position? Right. Would you rather be Mike Martz, the offensive coordinator, or Mike Martz, the head coach?
That is Mike Martz, the offensive coordinator.
When people talk about all-time greatest coordinators on the offensive side of the ball, they'll be saying names like Mike Martz. They won't be saying Mike Martz's name when it comes to head coaches. So,
Right. So that's what I'm saying with Spags.
Spags, I think, certainly over these last few years has entered his name. And people forget, he was a great defensive coordinator years ago. That's how he got to be a head coach in the first place. Spags, in my lifetime, is top tier.
A guy that was trending towards one of the great offensive coordinators of all time. Someone tell me where he is. Eric Bieniemy.
He's in college now.
What?
Yeah, he's in college.
Someone needs to do a get Seth Wickersham. Someone needs to do a deep dive on what happened to him.
Pablo.
Yeah.
Offensive coordinator.
Find out.
He's a OC at UCLA
Wow.
on Deshaun Foster's
He's supposed
staff.
to be a head coach in the NFL.
Guys, I've been in the lab doing some Baker research. Baker is number 1 in touchdowns on the season with 15. He's number 4 in the NFL with completion percentage at 71%, and he's top 10 with 1,489 passing yards.
The lab, huh?
Yeah.
And rushing yards, too.
Rushing yards, got 136 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. That's better than Mahomes, C.J. Stroud, a litany of guys, obviously behind Lamar Jackson.
He's better than C.J. Stroud? That's surprising.
I thought what happened yesterday with Jerry Jones in Dallas was fascinating. Mike, we had Nick Saban, a weekly coaches show with Nick Saban at one point during 790 The Tickets run. And I remember that we would often get Nick would be cranky sometimes. Nick would be Nick. He was coaching. I wish we had the Nick Saban that we're seeing now as opposed to Nick Saban who was coaching at the time.
The lobbyist?
Yeah, but we would sometimes, when you do weekly shows with a GM or with an owner or someone who has power, they tend to think they don't want, and your partners, you're the flagship radio station, they don't want pressing questions.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you're taking this Jerry Jones discussion to that place, because I think this ultimately comes down to a discussion about flagship rights and the unique position that being a flagship for a team, especially that team, puts you in.
Yes.
And I don't think the general public is all that informed on how awkward that can be. You know, from your terrible deal that we cover in the oral history of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Miami Dolphins, the awkward positions that can put you in, because the power dynamic is so skewed to the team that you are paying money for. It's an inverted power dynamic in that they are actually your client. You are paying them money.
Yeah.
And you just kowtow to them the entire time. You are on bended knee. You do whatever they want.
It's tricky because as a radio station, you want to have the head coach on every single week. Of course you do. It's sellable. It's good programming. But as a partner, the team will put some pressure on you to not press on the coach or on the GM or whoever that person is. So Jerry Jones is the only NFL owner to do a weekly show. He does it in Dallas. Does it every single Monday. Or Tuesday, excuse me, and yesterday had a little contentious back and forth with the host.
Jerry, 1970, a little different from this past off season in building the team we're talking about today, which there was a lot of criticism that you guys didn't add, didn't spend, and don't add, and don't spend, and are not aggressive enough with some of the problems that are still haunting the Cowboys today that we see play out on the field. That's the point of talking about the off season.
Oh, I remember those criticisms very well. Okay, so what?
Or are they playing out to be accurate?
What's your point?
My point is, it seems like
Listen, let me tell you what I'll do. Let me tell you what I'll do about it. I will let us sit down and look at the decisions we've made over the last several years. I'll look at it. Now, if you think I'm interested on a damn phone call with you over a radio, and sitting here and throwing all the good out with the dishwater, you have got to be smoking something over there this morning. I'm not. And I really don't, and I don't even want our listeners to listen to me talk about, this is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job.
Well, my job is to ask why.
A job, or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
Jerry, we're trying to figure out why the team is.
I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you.
What are you laughing at, Chris? The chummy laughter from the host because they're afraid they're going to lose their jobs?
I mean, saying that Cowboys didn't spend is kind of crazy. They signed CD and Dak this offseason. They just spent all their money on two guys.
Yeah, but saying to the host, it's not your job, it's exactly what their job is. I mean,
I understand why he would take exception to the question, but it was framed very politely with deference, and
because they have no choice.
No, very clearly they have no choice.
I understand the tone and why they asked it the way they asked it. I'm fine with it. It's his response.
I thought it was a respectful question, and his response to it lacked such mutual respect. Like, there is no mutual respect there. He does not respect those people very clearly. And then he doubles down and says, I'm serious. Like, I can have you fired because your station pays my organization for this flagship responsibility. I can have you fired if I don't want that.
You need me more than I need you is essentially what he's saying. But Billy, I think Billy is tending to agree with Jerry here, it seems like.
Not agreeing with Jerry. I'm just saying, like,
it comes off like a kind
you
of
give a guy $60 million a year and you give another guy $136 million. Like, Jerry, we're not spending money. It's like, well, we spent all the money on the two guys you wanted him to keep. Like, at a certain point. Here's the thing. The whole problem is Derrick Henry and the season he's having, right? If Derrick Henry was not having the season Derrick Henry is having, I don't feel like, and there shouldn't be a connection here, and it shouldn't be impacting the Cowboys the way that it is. But if Derrick Henry was not having his season, I don't think that the heat would be as much on the Cowboys.
You're absolutely right. They have zero identity. They do not run the ball. They
can't stop the run.
They opted to get Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowd instead of giving $9 million to Derrick Henry. And now Derrick Henry's having that season.
And whose job is it to give them the best roster?
Jerry's.
Right. So the host pressed him on it.
My question
and he said, I'll get new hosts.
My question is, what does he mean by this?
And sitting here and throwing all the good out with the dishwater.
Is that the baby with the bathwater type of analogy? What's the dishwater?
But can't get fooled again.
Can't get fooled again. Dan, what's that in your hand?
That was very natural, Mike, but I'm excited about this. It is a coloring book meant to celebrate our 20-year anniversary. We've always prided ourselves around here on having a different artistic look, and I like some of the pictures here. There is Roy and Mike as Riggs and Lethal. What is it? Thank you.
Actually, we can't use them to sell this book, so don't say their names.
Okay, I bleep that all out. I also have a meme here falling in American.
Can't say that either.
Greg Cody is wearing a...
that you can say.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
maybe.
Is that the LSU one or no?
Wait, what is he wearing?
He's wearing that Zar...
Can't say that.
Can't
Strike
say
that from the
either.
record.
Okay. There is Stugotz, his guy...
You cannot say his
very
name.
That mayor of Flavortown, Dan.
That book is so much thicker than Stugotz's book.
LeBatardAF.com. It's a lot of fun. I urge you to check it out.
Tim Kurkjian going to join us to talk some baseball coming up here. One of the most beloved figures in the 20 years of us doing this show. In fact, I would put him in the top 5. I would. You would not?
Yeah, sure.
In terms of beloved figures on this show, Tim Kurkjian is certainly in the top 5, right up there with Greg Cody, right up there with Ron McGill, right up there with Alan Thicke, right up there with Roy.
Well, that's all 5 then.
That would be my top 5, I think.
I'd reserve a spot. I'm sure there's someone else.
Maybe Mort. Maybe Mort, right? Mike is doing an outstanding job on the oral history of this show. It airs every other Friday. We're 2 episodes in. The 3rd episode comes out this Friday. And it's been great. It's been fun to listen to. Mike has done a fantastic job with it, and we appreciate Mike's work with it. But you would agree, as someone who is going through the oral history of our show, important figures in our show, beloved figures, that Kurkjian is in the top 5, right?
No doubt about it.
Yes.
And I think there'll be a midway episode where we salute all those co-hosts and voices that have helped us along the way and give them their own special episode. It has been very well received. I want to give praise to our editing team and Ethan, the aforementioned very chatty Ethan, and Mike Malley. They've done a great job with that. This is very difficult to piece together from a pre-production standpoint and from an actual production standpoint. They're doing a great job with that. Our fans seem to really like this. Maybe we do something with it when it's all complete. But credit to you and Dan for being very forthcoming. Some of these conversations are uncomfortable to have. They're only going to get more uncomfortable. This episode starts getting into the breakup between this show and its former executive producer and Marc Hochman, who's also been dynamite on these
He's
clips.
been great, yes.
He's been really good, and it's been very well received, but there's going to be some uncomfortable conversation that's going to start being had, and it only progressively gets more and more complicated because we haven't even gotten to our time over at ESPN. But a little inside baseball. This treats you like you're smart, like you have some background working knowledge of this, and we hope you like it. We wanted to do something to celebrate these 20 years. It's very hard for a singular show to stay largely together for as long as we've had this level of success. So we wanted to do something for our legacy fans and maybe people that aren't that familiar with our story. This is an opportunity for you to come in and see what we're all about. Or maybe you once liked us and you're just interested in reliving the eras that you did like us. Well, there's an option for that too. So
there are some tense moments, Mike, and I think one of them's coming up in episode 3. There are things that I am saying to Dan that I think he's hearing for the first time.
You're especially strong in this episode.
Yeah, I just assumed that he knew. I mean, I've said it to him before, he just wasn't listening.
The old adage that there's 2 sides to every story. In this one, there's more than that, certainly. And you'll see how time kind of confuses people about their actions and how they rationalize things. And I haven't heard what Hawk has to say in this episode. I'm still waiting for those work parts. We're a couple days away, but we'll get them. But he provides a unique insight. I think it's pretty. It is pretty public knowledge that there is a clear and obvious disconnect between Hawk's accounts of his time on this show.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
My schmuckums.
And ours, but we want to give him voice, and hopefully we can all heal through this. But I appreciate the kind words and the opportunity to promote it. This next project comes out, as you mentioned, on Friday.
Chris, what did you say to Tony?
Headlines with Alejandro Solana.
He's got to work on the schmuckums a little bit. That's where he finds his range.
My schmuckums.
A little more.
Dude, Solana's gonna be a star, huh?
My boy.
The FIU soccer.
Is he really?
Yeah, he took
Big
Zaza's
star?
old gig at the Heat pregame.
He did have a bad moment
Wow.
yesterday.
Hoffman
did.
coaching tree, huh?
He had a bad moment yesterday.
Yesterday, Appel was hosting the Hawk Show, and
Right.
he was just like, "Oh, the Davante thing just happened. I'm hearing," and this is Appel who does NFL games. He's like, "I'm hearing that the Bills could make a move here. They didn't get Davante. They were in on Davante. They could make a move here." And Solana just dismissed him like, "What do you? That's just your opinion. You don't know." And then literally seconds later, Amari Cooper was traded to the Bills. It was quite the win for
It's kind
Appel.
of weird because like Josh Appel has a network. Like he calls NFL games.
I
Like he was
side
at
with Solano.
Lambeau.
I side with him.
He was at Lambeau Field
He
calling
has-
an NFL game
That
on
doesn't
Sunday.
matter.
He has connections.
No, connections. He has every right to be called out for that. Solano had no idea if he actually knew. He guessed and he won.
Solana.
Whatever.
Hey,
Solano,
sometimes
Solana, tomato.
sometimes you throw something out there,
Tomato,
and
potato.
it takes a little
Tomato,
bit
tomato.
longer for the news to
tomato.
come out.
Yeah.
But then it was just very quick.
Josh had reputable sources. And
That kind of thing.
Yeah,
Solano pressed him on it. He was right.
It was a guess.
It wasn't
Educated guess.
It's
It's
not an educated guess. No one was talking Buffalo Bills Davante Adams. Like he was all over that.
All right.
And he knew that they were going to do something to respond to Davante Adams choosing to go to New York. That's a reporter doing his journalistic job there.
Okay, I apologize. I mean,
You should.
But
And
you're
so
right.
should Solana.
Yep. Alex should have
Solana.
pressed him.
Yeah.
And did.
yeah.
And got egg on his face.
He is
the
not
egg
a
on the
stranger
face.
to.
Immediate egg on his face.
Something interesting happened to me yesterday. My daughter called me from college.
Oh,
Dangerous game.
It's the first
wow.
time that's happened.
Well, when they call, because they have stopped calling, but when they do, the first thing you think of is emergency
Or money.
or they need money. Exactly right, Chris. That was not the case yesterday. Rachel called me yesterday from school to tell me, and she's never done this before, and I'm quite certain she'll never do it again. Dad, watch Starting Five on Netflix. You have to watch it. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
You took the time to dial my telephone number and have a conversation with me, not via text.
She
Yeah,
could
that
just
feels like a text.
She could just hit dad, by the way. She
Well,
doesn't have to dial the number.
Good point.
Feels like a text.
It was a conversation, and I asked her about it, and she said, it's really good. Trust me on this. And I was explaining to her, you can't set the bar too high. Just tell me it's good, you'll like it, and let me figure it out from there. Because when you tell me it's great, like an all-time great show, I then have the expectation of it go. And now I realize why she doesn't call me. Because that's the conversation I wanted to have with her about how you set expectations. She just wanted to tell Dad, hey, great show, you'll like it, go watch.
You gave her a 5-minute kind of monologue about how
I did.
it could never be.
Always teach it, Tone.
It could never be Michael Jordan. It could never be as good as Michael Jordan's
Did you watch any
Last
of it?
Dance.
I have not watched it yet.
Dude, it's fun. It's a fun show. Am I going to say it's the greatest basketball show of all time? No. But it's a following, if you don't know the concept of it. They take 5 guys. They've got Jason Tatum, Domantas Sabonis, LeBron, Jimmy, and Anthony Edwards, and they follow them through last season, so 23-24, where the Celtics end up being world champions. And they're going through all these different things with births of kids, with travel, with LeBron, with all these different little avenues of stories. And my wife started watching, and she's a casual basketball fan. We're like, hey, the playoffs are on. We'll watch the Heat games. But like, she doesn't really care. She doesn't know the players. She knows LeBron and knows like kind of the bigger names.
She's like me with the Mets.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's like, I'm going to tune in when something's really exciting happening, but like most of the time I'm going to be like on my phone, not watching.
I'm fearful that we're getting too many of these type shows. Ever since the F1 success, every single sport has this now.
This one is better than the football one.
But I'm just saying, and I'll check it out, but I just feel like I watched the hockey one, and I'm liking all of them.
They have a hockey one?
Yeah, there's like one
on Amazon.
Amazon
That I
Prime.
can.
It's called Face Off.
I can vouch for that. I've watched the first 2 episodes of that. I watched it on a plane, and I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed that too, but it's like I'm enjoying it, but I'm not like enthralled by this. And it's just, by the way, Swayman, terrible singer. I mean, geez, I can't believe he did that on record. But the goalie,
he's
for the
not great.
Bruins.
Oh, I was gonna say I don't know.
It
what
did
that
make me
means.
have a new appreciation for Dave Pastrnak, though.
Before game days, he like plays the guitar to get into like Zen mode.
Thank you for telling me who Swayman is.
I had no idea.
And I was
New
like,
contract.
and I'm thinking like, okay, maybe he's just gonna string the guitar. And then he started singing, and I was like, oh god, this is brutal.
But it did get me in the mood to watch the NBA version because I haven't watched the NBA one, but I have seen that clip that went kind of viral, how they introduced Anthony Edwards as LeBron's talking about how he's still great and there's this whole younger generation, essentially kind of kiss the ring narrative, and Anthony Edwards has no time for that. Busts out the gate saying, there's nobody in this league that I really respect. I'm better than all of them. Like, it was a cool way to introduce him.
But I'm interested in Tony's wife as a casual basketball fan, turning on this show and loving this show.
Dude, she's watching it without me. I have to catch up so that I can be on the same episode as her because she's just flown through it. We're on episode 9 right now. But I do have a top 5 from my wife about the NBA and starting 5.
Really?
With an OLI.
This is your wife's top 5?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, what is his top 5? Top 5 things about the show?
About the show and about the NBA in general that she's figuring out because of the show.
Okay. All right.
OLI will start. Number 1. LeBron really likes wine, huh? Every time they finish a game, he's like, you know what? I'm going to go home, drink some wine, The guy says he's going to drink wine 13 times throughout the 10 episodes. It's crazy.
Yeah, but does he actually, or is he just wants to be a wine
We don't
guy?
know. That's what she's asking.
I saw a clip of Jimmy Butler's wine collection. Holy God, man.
Yeah, but I'm with Billy. I'm always skeptical of these wine connoisseurs. It's like, they're smelling it and they're rocking
You know how
it
much
around
wine
in the
you have
glass,
if you like wine?
right.
0 because you drank it.
Yeah. I mean,
it's debatable.
Also,
you enjoyed it,
probably
though,
make you an alcoholic.
Yeah, it's like Popovich. He's the same way. Popovich.
He's got a cellar downstairs.
Exactly. Are you
Please.
going to be buried with all your wine? What are you going to do with all that? Why do you need 30,000 bottles of wine? It's too much. Anyways.
Number 5.
Number 5. This is from Jenny, my wife.
Okay.
I really like Sabonis.
I love how Tony didn't want that near him.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
Reminder, this is my wife.
He's a dog on the boards.
I would never say this.
No.
Little reset. That's all.
I'm just making
just
sure.
a reminder.
If you're tuning in for the first time, you're like, hey, what's the top 5?
I would never say, oh.
Hey. That's a different one.
That's
coming,
adorable,
That's coming
Tone.
tomorrow. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's like,
yeah.
he's such a good family man. He's always around with his kids and his wife, and like he never gets the respect he deserves. I'm like, yeah, I know. He was triple-double machine. They didn't vote him to the All-Star game. And she's like, I hate that.
Yeah.
So she's a big Sabonis fan. She said,
But
I
for
really
the
like
record,
Sabonis.
you're not.
No, I like Sabonis.
No, but you're not. You
Kind of
made
a-
it very
You don't
clear
love
to distance
Sabonis, you
yourself
like
before.
No, I like
distance
Sabonis.
kind of
Say
access
say
does this
aw.
show have? Like, does he go to the crew and say, now we're going to sneak out? have some brewskis at Flanny's with the boys.
That hasn't happened yet. I told Jenny that this is a very sanitized version of what happens in the NBA on a
Really?
day in and day out purpose.
Huh.
Yeah, kind of. Number 4. I guess I never realized how tall Jason Tatum was. She's like, every time she sees him, she's like, he's huge. I'm like, yeah, he's like 6'9", 6'10". He's massive.
But a small 6'9".
That's the thing. So she
Yeah.
always thought of him as a smaller guy, but then
Doesn't
she
play
sees
like a
him.
classic 6'10" guy.
Exactly.
You know?
So she sees him. She's like, wow, he's really tall. I'm like, yeah, it's the NBA, babe.
They're not making 6'10" guys like they used to.
Alonzo
Roy.
Mourning was 6'10".
That's how you play when you're 6'10".
Exactly
Like so.
right.
Yeah.
Number 3, Jimmy's kind of quirky, huh?
Where's she been?
You see
Not
what-
watching the NBA, which is why she's starting to
He's a
realize.
casual,
So,
right?
you see what he did last night with the Chris Paul and the.
I like that.
Yeah, okay,
He's defending Jovic.
okay.
What do you do, Mike?
Jovic got a hard foul against Paul, and for the next 10 minutes, Jimmy just kind of I guess bullied, you could call it, just did not leave Chris Paul alone.
Brother, I'm tired.
Ooh.
Where is Chris
Dude, that's
Paul?
him being a good team. I get
Spurs.
the Jimmy stuff can be a lot.
Cross them
but
off the list of teams that are going to win a championship this year.
What? I don't understand why we
Just
don't like that.
exhausting. It's just exhausting with him.
Number 2,
Chris Paul, you're saying?
Yeah, I'm just talking about CP3.
Good. Okay.
Number 2, wow, I didn't know Anthony Edwards was this good.
That's me every time I occasionally flip over to a T-Wolves game. I had to watch them like, oh, T-Wolves are good now, huh?
Wow,
Oh,
he's
this
good.
guy's good. How is Georgia bad?
Mike has bailed on the NBA a bit, man.
I watch a postseason.
Used to be your favorite sport.
It used to be. When the Heat were good. You want to call me a bandwagoner? I can. I just
Thank you. Don't criticize me for not watching baseball for the last 5 years. The Mets haven't given me a reason to.
Fan with. I'm fan with. I told you. I really don't want to even talk Heat because I have no original thoughts to provide on the Heat. You've heard me ad nauseum. We're just kind of stuck in neutral here, and I'm kind of just generally bored by the experience, and I'm ready for a change.
All right.
But Mike watches some sports. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I watch it.
He's a gearhead.
Yeah, like
He's a gearhead.
If the Heat are playing, I'll have it on one of the TVs, and I'll do my best to follow along on mute. But look, I don't. I think it's pretty much known that it's a bit that I know ball. Like I don't really watch with sound on. I'm constantly shocked at how to pronounce guys' names.
The Dan is strong in you. Number 1. Now this is something that I'm very happy about because she's finally getting and asking questions that real hoopers are asking. Number 1.
The wasn't a good observation.
No, it was good.
Okay.
But this one kind of brings in like a level of like understanding hoops, right? So she's watched the first 9 episodes. So the way it takes you throughout the season, we're right now in the midst of Anthony Edwards playing against the Nuggets in the semis, waiting to go to the Western Conference Finals. That's where she's like, wow, I didn't know Anthony Edwards was so good. He scored 40 points, whatever. But her number 1 observation from the starting 5 had nothing to do with any of the guys from starting 5. So no Jason Tatum, no Edwards, no LeBron, no Sabonis, and no the other guy.
Now you're sounding like me.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure whatever. Number 1.
Yes.
So Nikola Jokic looks miserable playing basketball, but he's the best player? And I'm like, yeah.
She knows ball.
I'm like, exactly. Like he doesn't
She's
like
all caught up.
he doesn't like playing basketball, but he's the best player in the world. And she's like, but he doesn't look like the best player in the world. Like Anthony Edwards, LeBron, like these guys look like the best players in the world. And he's like, yeah, but he's unstoppable. He's a basketball computer. He makes every play the right play. He hits from 3. He can dribble the ball. He can make plays happen in the post. He doesn't miss bunnies. He's the best player in the planet. And she's like, why does he look so miserable? I'm like, you know what? We're all been trying to figure that out. We don't know.
He's not the best player I've ever seen, but he's the most unstoppable, if that makes any sense. Like, that guy's going to get his. You can try your best to bother him, but he's going to affect the game in elite ways no matter what you do. At least with guys like Kobe, LeBron, MJ, you can hold them to inefficient games from the field and feel like, yeah, I did something there. I really made an impact there. With Jokic, you just like, he's going to get his. Let's try to limit the other guys.
He does look bored playing a sport that people would love to play and make the money that he is making playing said sport. He looks bored playing.
Fascinating
It
case
seems like
study.
he doesn't want to be here.
Just a fascinating player.
She was surprised when I told me he's won 3 out of 4 MVPs and he's a world champion. She's like, really? I was like, yeah. He's the best player on the planet.
Is that an insane take, by the way? That he might be the most unstoppable player in the history of that game?
Yes, it is, because it's Jordan.
He wasn't unstoppable.
He was unstoppable.
I mean, did you
He
see
wasn't
when he was playing the Pistons?
He was unstoppable.
No, he
Mike.
wasn't. He failed routinely. Hell, even when he came back, we're in the 4 or 5. He had a bad turnover.
Yeah,
like
but-
he was
But
fallible.
once he got that first championship,
whole
he never
bad turnover.
He
A
never,
whole bad turnover.
He never failed again after the first one. I mean,
No, he's
there was a failure early on in his career. Lost to the Pistons. Lost in the first round a few times.
he's right there with LeBron, the 2 greatest I've ever seen.
Remember that one Jokic turnover, though?
I remember the Duncan Bunny. I can tell you that much.
Look, I guess you can make arguments. If you're an old timer, you can make an argument. George Mike and Wilt Chamberlain, these were more unstoppable players, but they were playing guys with belts around their socks.
I would say there are guys just walking around the streets at pickup games who look more like an NBA player than Jokic, right? Like he doesn't.
He's pretty tall.
Right.
He's pretty tall.
like
that
Jason
guy showed
Tatum.
up in your gym, you'd know.
Just like Jason Tatum.
Yeah, but he's
Wow, he's
bored.
tall.
You'd feed him the rock. If Joker showed up to your YMCA, you're feeding him the rock.
Tim Kurkjian next. He is one of the most beloved figures in the history of this radio show. 20 years of doing this radio show. He is Tim Kurkjian. He is joining us right now. You can check out Tim's podcast, which he does with his son, Jeff. Is this a great game or what? Which is perfectly named by Tim Kurkjian and his son. It comes out every Monday, wherever you get your podcast. Tim, how much fun has that been for you and your son to do that together?
It's been the highlight of my career, and I don't care how corny that sounds. It's something my son and I have always wanted to do together. He's really good at this, but he's not a baseball expert by any means. And since I don't know anything about anything other than baseball, basketball, and sitcoms from the 60s, he fills in every other gap. He knows everything about music. He knows everything about pop culture. He knows a lot about a lot of stuff. So we go back and forth. We have a lot of fun. We laugh a lot. Our guests have been absolutely hilariously funny, almost every one of them. This has been the best time I've ever had doing anything, is doing a podcast with my son.
I don't want to put you in a bad spot here, but what was the career highlight before you started this podcast with your son?
Well, Hank Aaron joined us on the air during a game several years ago for 4 innings. So I sat next to Hank Aaron.
Wow.
For 4 innings during a game. It was Dave Fleming, Eduardo Perez, and myself. And I was so captivated sitting next to Hank Aaron, who was so funny. His stories were so good. His recall was amazing. It was so good, I stopped keeping score of a game that I was calling because I didn't care about the game. I only cared about him. And when it was over, I checked Twitter. Never a good idea to check Twitter after you've called the game.
Right.
And some guy wrote in, he said, if you ever meet anybody who looks at you like Tim Kurkjian looked at Hank Aaron tonight,
Frank Aaron,
you should marry that person. That's how captivated we all were by Hank Aaron. That was the highlight of my career until my own son said, we got to do this. And now we've done a podcast for 31 weeks.
What if Hank Aaron wanted to do a podcast with you, Tim?
Oh, wow.
Well, that would have been pretty cool, too. I'll never forget, I also interviewed Willie Mays and Hank Aaron at the same time at Cooperstown like 20 years ago. And there I am standing between, at the time, the 2 greatest living players, and I just went back and forth with them. That was pretty cool, too. I've had a lot of really cool moments covering baseball over the years. That's why, among many reasons, baseball is the greatest game ever.
Tim, we'll get to the series in just a second here. French onion soup, overrated or underrated?
I haven't had it in a long time, but I really like it. But then again, I like virtually everything. I'm the least picky eater in the world. The only thing I don't eat are oysters because I had one and it was bad.
Yeah.
But yes, I really like French onion soup. I can see where people think it's overrated after you get through the cheese on the top.
Thank you.
But I'll take it any day. I think it's still really good.
What is your favorite soup, like your go-to soup?
I'm just a vegetable soup guy.
Makes
I don't
sense.
even need meat in there. I love vegetables. I love all vegetables. You could fire anything in there, and as long as you fill it with sturdy stuff, I'm going to eat it and I'm going to love it, and it's pretty good for you.
Tim, how did the Mets, with the highest payroll in baseball, become this lovable little underdog? I mean,
good point, Stugotz. These gritty little Mets, and they're not the gritty little Mets. They're a really good team, and they have been since the beginning of June. But I'm telling you, fellas, I was there in England this year when they played the Phillies in a 2-game series. Michael Kay, Doug Glanville, and I did the game on TV. And if you remember that Sunday game against the Phillies, the Mets were going to lose the second game of that series, having lost the first one. And with the bases loaded and 1 out in the 9th inning, Nick Castellanos hit that little dribbler out in front of home plate, and Luis Torrens, the catcher, went out and got it, stepped on the plate for a force, and then threw to first for a double play, a 2-3 double play to end a 1-run game. It's the first time in baseball history that play has ever happened to end a 1-run game. And I'm telling you, that was the jumping off point that here come the Mets. Like, that crazy play happened, and they started to believe, hey, something special might start to go on here. And ever since then, they've been an awfully good team, and they're not this, sparky little gritty team. They're good in every way.
Tim, another moment people have turned to and said maybe this is when things started changing for the Mets is when they had Francisco Lindor replace Brandon Nimmo in the leadoff spot. They were 20-24 when that move was made. They've been 70-48 since then. On the other side, the team they're playing against, Shohei Ohtani has not been good in the playoffs in the leadoff spot. He's been hitting 0-19 with the bases empty, so there's been discussions of kind of moving him back in the lineup because he's been 6 for 8 with runners in scoring position. How do you decide, because obviously the Dodgers had the best team in baseball, they've said they're not going to move him, but how do you decide when it's time to make that move?
All right, now is not the time to make that move because in today's day and age, when you make that move, it shows a panic on your side, and there's no reason to panic right now. First off, he's going to start to hit again. But there's another reminder here, fellas, just how difficult this game is to play. I mean, Stephen Vogt and I, manager of the Guardians, were saying, we don't know how anyone gets a hit anymore in today's baseball. So to see Aaron Judge struggle like he has until last night, to see Ohtani struggle, I am never surprised when these things happen because you're facing unbelievably good pitching every day, especially in the postseason. So I would leave Ohtani exactly where he is because he's going to win the MVP unanimously as the leadoff hitter. Just leave him there. But if I were in charge of this, and I'm an old man now, I would hit him third in the order. So he bats in the first inning every day, but he has a better chance, of course, to come up with somebody on base. But that's just me, old school thinking. The best hitter should hit third on your team, not necessarily first.
Tim, I loved how much you loved that wacky double play that you mentioned earlier. What is the wackiest double play in terms of like numbers that you've seen?
Well, that's the wackiest one because it's never happened before since we started counting grounded into double plays.
Oh, that is unique.
Yes.
Right. And we had another double play this year. I'm going to be close on this. There was a double play this year that had never there was a fly out to the outfield. Can't believe I can't remember this, but it went to center field. The center fielder flipped it to the right fielder, who flipped it to the shortstop, who threw it somewhere, and that double play might even have been a triple play, had never happened before in baseball history. And this is why baseball is so cool. We've played well over 200,000 games in baseball history, and a play happens that has never happened before. These are the things where I go, first time ever, even though that's redundant. It's the first time ever that play has happened. That still should have great meaning to anyone who cares about the game.
It happened in a Marlins game. It was an 8-9-4-2 double play.
It
was crazy.
Right, crazy. And it had never happened. And it's because the center fielder fell down, so you have to pitch it to the right fielder. Crazy play.
He caught the play, tossed it over to him. Someone was trying to tag up. I think because he fell, they tried to go home from second base and get two bases, so it ended up being a double play at home.
Right. Highlight of the Marlins season, Billy. Sorry.
All right, Tim.
Thanks.
Wow. I mean,
Sorry.
Tim, it's great to see you.
You're right.
Yesterday there was a report out of the Tampa Bay Times suggesting that Tropicana Field is going to be unplayable for the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, they announced plans for a new stadium, but that's years away. What do you think is the plan for the Tampa Bay Rays going forward? I think I did actually go to a couple Tampa Bay Rays games at Disney's Wild World of Sports several years ago. What are the possible solutions here for this organization?
Well, we're going to have to come up with solutions pretty quickly because I think that place is going to be unplayable for, I don't know for how long, but they're going to have to start looking. You know, last night we took the subway home after our game. We've done this 4 nights in a row where Eduardo Perez, Carl Ravitch, and I get on the subway, and there were like 1 million Yankee fans. It was really a lot of fun. And there was a guy sitting right next to us, and he's the biggest Tampa Bay Rays fan ever. Like, where did that come from? And he said the Rays are not going to play at home next year. Not like he knows anything. They need to go play in Oakland because they can't play in Tropicana Field. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I've heard just guessing they would share the Marlins ballpark because at least it's in Florida. But this is going to be a very difficult situation to handle if they can't get that ballpark ready to go. And from what I'm told, it's going to be hard. This is a bigger issue than people think it is.
They have one of the better spring training complexes in baseball with the Yankees.
They do, yeah.
Residing in Tampa. Is that a possible option? Major League Baseball is already going to be playing. I know they're making alterations to it, but in a minor league ballpark to accommodate the A's while their new stadium is getting built.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And don't forget, we Montreal was supposed to share the Rays for a while, and we thought, they're going to play 81 in Montreal or 41 in Montreal and 41 in Tampa. Again, I don't see that happening, but yes, the Steinbrenner Field in Tampa is a beautiful minor league ballpark, but you can't even get 10,000 people in there. But
sounds like the Trop.
yeah. Sorry, glad you filled that in. So,
Stop being sorry, Tim. Stop it.
It's a problem.
Okay.
Tim, so yesterday there was some base running blunders in New York, and John Sterling said that they looked like they were drunks running the bases. This has been something that has happened for the Yankees this season. Gleyber Torres had one in September. He had another one in August. It led to him getting benched. They're up 2-0 in the ALCS, but is this something that they're going to have to correct because they're not going to always be able to overcome these things?
Yeah, they are up 2-0 in this series, and they really haven't played particularly well. The Guardians in Game 1 had 5 wild pitches and issued 7 walks. The Yankees made 2 horrendous base running mistakes last night, and if it weren't for a couple of errors by the Guardians, it would have been a much closer game. The point here is, fellas, and you don't see me get upset very often, the base running in the big leagues is the worst that I have ever seen it.
Wow.
5 years ago, I wrote a story just on this subject, 7,000 words about how most people don't know how to run the bases in the big leagues today. They're bigger, stronger, faster, and better than ever, and they have no idea how to run the bases. They overpowered the sport with their amazing physical gifts, and yet they don't understand which base to throw to sometimes and how to run the bases. Jazz Chisholm getting picked off second last night. It's incomprehensible how that can happen. Look, I can put up with anything, fellas. If you can't hit 98 miles an hour, I get it. If you can't throw a strike, if you can't catch a ground ball that's hit at 108 miles an hour, I get it. But there is no excuse for running the bases poorly, as the Yankees did last night and as virtually every team does on a nightly basis. If I had made that mistake when I was 16 years old, Mr. Keene would have taken me out of the game and said, yes, he would. You do not deserve to play the rest of this game if you get picked off in that situation. And I saw 2 of the worst base running mistakes I've ever seen in back-to-back games in Seattle this year. There's no sense going into it, but people on the Mariners and the Yankees both acknowledge we've never seen that happen before. Those base running mistakes were so bad. We've never seen it before in our lives. Anybody. That's how bad it was.
Tim, we have less than 30 seconds here. We'll get you out of here. But I know Major League Baseball, I know most of the networks especially, they want a Dodger-Yankee World Series. What does Tim Kurkjian want?
Look, I don't care anymore. I just want to go to the World Series and see it. We're not going to lose no matter what we have. Dodgers, Yankees would be tremendous. Yankees, Mets would be tremendous. Almost anything would be tremendous because there are no prohibitive favorites this year. We have no idea what's going to happen. That has been the beauty of the 2024 season.
The Guardians, that could happen too.
Anything's possible.
All right, Timmy, we love you. We miss you. Enjoy the rest of the postseason. And thank you for doing this during a very busy time.
Okay, fellas. Miss you too. See you.
All right, thanks, Timmy. He's got his Yankee
What up,
gear
gang? ¿Qué lo que, manito?
¿Qué lo que, mío? Okay, tranquilito. First and foremost, I want to thank Stugotz for all that he does. We got to start there.
Yep. That is very kind of you because no one thanks me around here. And so I do appreciate that because
nobody thanks you.
Thankless job.
I always got to. I already know. I'm an avid listener, Stu. I got to give you your thanks, you know what I mean? Your props, because you're very maligned on that set.
Listen,
I see it. And I'm in your corner.
Right. I appreciate that. And everyone was offended here because they're claiming they always thank me. I was talking about Dan. That's all. I was just talking about Dan. That's it. You are excited. Look at you. You got the Yankee hat on. You got the Yankee jacket on.
Come on, son. New York sports, baby. New York sports.
Yanks are up 2-0. I mean, the Mets are a lovable underdog with the highest payroll in baseball. It is a great time to be a New York sports fan.
Oh, it's I like the little payroll jab. Listen, I'm not a Mets fan. I'm a New York guy. I'm not a Mets hater. I'm not one of those Yankee fans that's like, yo, forget the Mets. I like the Mets. You know what I mean? They are a lovable underdog, Stu. Let's not – a lot of that money is dead money. That's like Scherzer money. That's DeGrom money. Like, you know? Like, look at me defending – what am I doing defending the Mets?
I don't know.
Let's go Yankees,
I don't
baby.
like this. I don't know. No, you should be railing against the fact that they're a lovable underdog with a $315 million payroll.
Hey, listen. They're doing. Listen, you see the memes. It's all about the Mets, baby. Let them live. It's their time to shine. As a Knicks fan, I understand. You know what I mean? When you see success, you get excited. You do things. You make memes with McDonald's characters. Let them live. Let them cook. You know, it's very rare for Mets fans to have this level of joy at this station of the year.
You're right. It is rare. If we get a Mets Yankees World Series, you and I will have to make a bet with each other, and we'll have to attend a game together. Okay?
Absolutely. And neither of us will be sober.
Roy, what are you laughing at over there?
You're not going to that.
I would go with Mero. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's not my cousin. How about that? I mean,
poor Jeffrey.
Close enough.
Mero, so Stugotz was offered a ticket to the Mets game on Friday, but he doesn't want to go with the person that offered him a ticket. He's trying to figure out how to either get out of it or should he just go because they're good seats. What would you do in that situation?
Oh, man. I mean, I would just go because they're good seats and then just kind of like, you know, I'm not going to say ignore the person you're there with, but, ignore the person you're there with if you don't really want to be with them.
Right.
The solution,
why not?
The solution we came up with is you got to put in like headphones and say he likes to listen to the radio call while he's at the game, which no one does anymore.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
but if somebody's going to do it, it's going to be Stu.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes, but what I'm worried about, Mero, is the fact that if you say yes, you take the free ticket, you hang out for 3 hours, there's probably an expectation to do something that's not as fun as attending the NLCS somewhere down the road, where I can't wear headsets.
So, listen, you can always wear headsets, Stu. They're always – it's like a service dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just say, like, yo, this is it calms my anxiety. It's my Headspace app. Whatever it is, bro, you make something up.
Or you just
know what I mean?
Invite that person to a bunch of things they don't want to go to, or like something super light. Like invite them to like Monster Jam or something. You know what I mean? Like monster trucks, and it's like everybody has to wear headsets, so you're good.
Right.
Yes.
I think Mero's probably like, why am I explaining this to you of all people? Like, you know how to get yourself out of these situations.
I'm like, yo, you're the master of the social spin move, bro. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're the social swim move guy, dog. Like, you know how to get out of anything, any commitment. Like, well, I should be taking lessons from you.
What'd you make of the Knicks and the Karl-Anthony Towns trade, man?
I love it. I'm not. A lot of people were mad about it. A lot of my fellow Knicks faithful were upset. Yo, we lost Drew. We lost. You know what I'm saying, Dante. You got the same guy in one. You got a big man that can shoot.
Yeah.
And it's one guy. Now you lost two guys that do two individual things. It's like Otani of basketball. This guy can shoot and he's a big man. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to hear anything about, yo, he's soft, this, that, the third. That narrative is over. As soon as we get together and we go to Dykeman and we spend a week or two uptown doing, uptown activities, that narrative will be erased. You know what I'm saying? I'm making it my own personal, mission to make that happen as a Knicks fan.
Mero,
same way I got Juan Soto signed to the Yankees, I'm going to make Cat a success.
That a boy.
Mero, Amin Al-Hassan, our NBA expert, said the best thing that Cat could do is to lean into his Dominican side, smoke hookah at halftimes, play them bow, do all that stuff, but like lean super heavy into it, and New York will accept him instantly.
Bro, instantaneous. You want to talk about like, you know what I mean? Like everybody's talking about instant gratification, this young generation, they don't want to put the work in, blah, blah, blah. Bro, you waved that flag on opening night, bro, against the Celtics. It is over. Al Horford, who? He becomes second on the totem pole of Dominican NBA players.
The internet is workshopping a nickname for him, the Big Bodega. How do you feel about that?
I don't like that. Big Bodega's whack. Bodega Cat is it. Bodega Cat.
I like that.
You know what I'm saying? Come on, because what does the Bodega Cat do? It holds down, it protects the bodega, it eats all the vermin that are trying to pee on your chopped cheese, you know what I'm saying, and your food. You know what I mean? It holds down. It's a defensive stopper in the bodega. You know what I'm saying? So he's the Bodega Cat.
Walk out the Rochi.
You know what I mean? Tosa vaina, loco. Opa, opa, opa. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 7 p.m. in Brooklyn is the show with Carmelo Anthony. New episodes every week on their YouTube channel at 7 p.m. in Brooklyn. They have Rich Paul on this week. What'd you get out of Rich Paul?
Not a lot.
Really? Way to sell it, man.
That's an interview. Don't listen.
But no, it was great. It was a tremendous interview. Shout out to Rich Paul, shout out to Melo, and shout out to myself for being a tremendous interviewer. You know what I mean? But funny enough, Rich, this is a funny story. We're having an interview, right? We're in the studio, and there's a gas leak. I don't know that there's a gas leak. Somebody, there's a PA in the back going around saying, hey, there's a gas leak, there's a gas leak, there's a gas leak. I just see, my back is to everybody. I just see Rich Paul sitting in a chair going like this. I was like, hey, what's going on, guys? And then there was a gas. So then we did a fire drill. We evacuated the building, and we got to hang out outside. You know what I mean? For like an hour and a half. And then we did the interview after that, you know? But it was a great interview because Rich Paul is an innovator in his space. You know what I'm saying? And he talked a lot about that.
Dímelo, mi gente!
Hey.
Oh, yeah, hold on. He's got weed. Hold on. Here we go.
Roy, how
Dame una
about
salsita ahí rica.
I mean, somebody had to do it.
There we go. Refund the Diaz presented by Hulu. Don't miss the all-new Spanish language original series La Máquina. All episodes streaming now on Hulu. And I had to bring El Único, the only one.
El Don.
El Don.
El Patrón.
El Patrón.
El Maestro.
El Único. The Kid Mero. To do Refund the Dia. Because anytime that he's on Refund the Dia, it pops off. The entire world loves it. That's what we do around here,
on,
though, me
man.
and you.
Oh, baby. I bring the sazon. You know what I'm saying?
Sazón, la salsa, todo. All right, let's spin the wheel.
Oh, the wheel. Wow.
He said, let's do it.
The wheel. I mean, my God.
My producer says, let's do it. I'm looking
Chris,
for my wheel.
Chris has a lot on his plate right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. We're spinning.
All right,
We're
spun it.
spinning.
Like a lot forgot about the wheel.
We're spinning.
Having a
You need the wheel,
Friday too,
Chris.
Chris. Don't worry.
Wheel landed on a. There we go. Chris is all over the place today. It's all good. Here we go.
There's a lot going on here.
Today's
Chris. It's
Refund the Dia. And Mero, usually we have Dan in here that can, spice things up too. We have Billy, we have Mike, who are our Hispanic correspondents here. I'm sure they've heard of this. Also, as you've heard of this.
I'm just here.
Today's
so
Refund the
Dan's
Dia.
just taking Hispanic Heritage Month off. He's just taking the whole month off?
Basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Oh, okay. Got you. All right, Dan must be nice.
Yeah, he's in
Must
LA
be, yeah.
following the Chargers, I think.
I think it ended yesterday because it's the weird September 15th to
It's like
October.
a half
It's that
month.
whole thing.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
don't
I don't like
respect
that.
us.
Hey,
they
give
only go
everybody
2 half
a whole
months.
month.
It's a
How
whole
about that?
thing.
He's
Yeah.
watching the
Like,
Kings
here.
right now. Yeah.
Right, now the Clippers.
Take
actually.
2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 weeks on the back end.
Yeah.
Your bums.
Interviewing George Sedano.
It dried
All
up
right.
when taxes are due.
And go, Jeff. Go ahead.
Today's Refund the Dia is comiendo lo que pica el pollo.
Oh.
¡Wow!
I like it.
Comiendo lo que pica el pollo. Espérate. Time out.
He called for
Time
time
out. Espérate, time out. Necesito ayuda from my cubano porque somos dominicanos. So, oye, comiendo lo que pica el pollo. According to me, which you can also find on YouTube, according to the kid, Mero. You know what I'm saying?
Hey.
Little plug. You know what I'm saying? Hey, go check it out. Comiendo lo que pica el pollo means, to me, a Dominican, you are being nosy. Is that, am I correct with that? Comiendo, is it synonymous with comiendo boca?
No. So us,
What's the chicken?
we use it as comiendo lo que pica el pollo is like you're fooling around, you're not paying attention, you're kind of eating.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. Está comiendo lo que
Comiendo
pica el pollo.
mierda.
Where's the chicken?
You're not locked in here. You're doing other things. Oye, ven para acá. Estás comiendo lo que pica el
Estás
pollo.
divariando, loco. Estás divariando. Tú no estás
No estás enfocado, no estás afilado. Esa es la cosa. Ponte
No estás
afilado,
enfocado.
ponte enfocado.
Stugotz?
I have no idea what happened.
So, comiendo lo que pica pollo literally translates into eating what the chicken eats.
Ah.
Eating what the chicken eats, bro. Which, again, is another refrán that if you are of Caucasian descent, you might be like, yo, that makes absolutely no sense. And as a representative of the Latino community, I'm going to say, it don't matter. Mind your business.
Exactly right.
I was told by a white Northeastern person that eating is also not something that they say.
No.
That it's usually like a Latin. They're like, what are you doing, bro? Nothing, just hanging around eating.
No,
The
like,
fact that you
why?
would just volunteer
It's
that, like
gross.
everyone's like, what are you talking about?
I've never said it. Yeah.
That's why Miami's the best, baby.
Mero, we appreciate it. 7 p.m. in Brooklyn is the show. Carmelo is his co-host. He has Rich Paul. He gets nothing out of him, but check it out anyway because Mero is fantastic. We appreciate it, buddy. Good luck to your Yankees, okay?
Thank you. Let's go Yankees. Let's go Knicks. It's the Bodega Cat, by the way. You know what I'm saying? According to the kid, Victory Light, 7 p.m. in Brooklyn. Check all that stuff out because we out here trying to pay these due mortgages. Stu, thank you very much.
All
You know
right.
what I'm saying?
Love you, buddy. Gen CFB, Lucy and Jess talking college football next.
Welcome back to another edition of Gen CFB. I'm Jessica Smetana. She's Lucy Rodine. Lucy's back from her trip to Oregon, and Taylor has been begging us to do winners or losers all season and talk about our winners and losers from the weekend. So we're going to do that, Lucy, and then we're going to talk about a couple big games coming up next week. And we're doing it all season with Cheez-It. We are feeling the cheesiest this year with Cheez-It. Lucy, you just got back from Oregon. Wow, what a game. How are you feeling? I know you're buzzing. I know you loved Oregon. You give me like Oregon vibes. It just feels like a place.
Is it because I'm white?
I was going to say you well.
Is it because I'm pale?
I'm just going to say.
Do I look like I hike for fun?
The vibes matched your attitude, I would say, which I can't say about every college that you've been to this year. So tell us how your trip went.
It was awesome. You're right. It did match like my energy and vibe. I will say they were some of the friendliest fans that we've interacted with throughout this entire series. Not that there have been particularly unfriendly fans, but everyone was so nice there. Even the Ohio State fans, which is a little odd, but like the whole vibe of it was so great. I really think it's one of the more underrated venues in college football, even though I know it's, talked about a lot, but their capacity for their stadium is pretty small. It's like, I think it's around 50,000, but they oversold. So there were 60,000 people there, which was a stadium record, but it was deafening. It was so loud. And the way the stadium is built, there's like an overhang that traps the sound. It was just an awesome experience that truly reflected, one, just how great that program is right now and how amazing of a game that was. Where like Alabama, Georgia was a lot of fun. And, we all really enjoyed that game, but it was very much, we had two completely different games going on. Where this one, it was so back and forth and it just felt so constant that it was like you were hooked the second you were there. It was such a great atmosphere. And like, I would say that if you're a Big Ten fan and you're thinking about taking a road trip to visit some of the new teams, I would put Eugene top of that list.
Yeah, 7 lead changes in that game, which brings us to our first winner of Week 7, Dan Lanning, the big winner. Ooh. We're recording this on Tuesday, where we are now being informed that Dan Lanning intentionally had 12 men on the field at the end of the game to burn some time off the clock. Lucy, is he now just saying this to make himself sound like he's this like Belichickian loophole genius and he knows all the rules loopholes? Or do you think like they prep for this in practice so that if this situation happened, they'd be able to end the game with Ohio State running out of time to throw a touchdown or kick a field goal?
At first, I thought it wasn't intentional, and I believe that Dan Lanning hasn't come out and said that that he did this. He's just very much implied it.
Yes.
Like, he's like, I'm not saying yes, but I'm not saying no.
Right.
I think what changes my mind on it, thinking that he did do it intentionally, was the fact that it did come out of a timeout. And Oregon's a pretty well-disciplined team outside of the whole spitting incident.
Yeah,
so
that
like,
wasn't great.
Yeah, it was crazy. Where I just have a hard time believing that late in the game you would make sort of just such a, mistake like that, just something just so like buffoonish. So I think he did do it on purpose. And like you kind of saw throughout the game and throughout his entire career at Oregon, Dan Lanning coaches like everything is on fire, but in like a very like in a firefighter way, not like, oh, everything's on fire, I don't know what's going on, but like he's navigating this giant flame that is Oregon, Ohio State. So like he has always coached in such a risky fashion and has been willing to take a bunch of risks, sometimes to the point where I'm like, I want you to slow down a little bit. This is making me anxious. But like, I think it was intentional. And like, hell yeah, brother, good for you.
Yeah, I mean, intentional or not, you're right. He didn't like outwardly say like yes, because I don't think he can. I think that would be a bad look.
They'll change the rule because of that.
Right. Well, they might change it anyways. But but either way, it was a really awesome game. I thought both teams played really, really well. Both offenses looked great. I feel for Will Howard on that last play. I know he's getting crushed for it, but he wasn't in a great spot. They were out of field goal range, and he just lost track of the clock. We've seen it happen to quarterbacks a number of times before, and it's a bummer to lose the game that way if you're Ohio State, but someone had to lose that game, and unfortunately it was them. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a rematch of this game later on this season. Lucy, Ryan Day is not beating the can't win a big game allegations after this weekend, but do you think he'll get a chance for redemption later this year?
I'd just love to know what Lou Holtz has to say about that. Like, really, that's what I would love to know in this situation. Yeah, he will. Ohio State doesn't have like a particularly crazy difficult schedule. I think he's gotten kind of lucky that the Kurt Cignetti hire at Indiana has played out so well, because that's going to give Ohio State the chance for another ranked win. They've got Penn State in 3 weeks ago, and this isn't sort of, it's not the Penn State team of years prior where they have a little bit of offense cooking for them and they seem to have things a little bit more together than they previously had. So I think that's going to be a more difficult matchup. It's at Happy Valley. So, they still have the chance to get a big win. I think that if we get to the situation where they struggle against this Michigan team, then, yeah, Ryan Day is in a really bad spot. I don't think that will happen. Most likely this season is going to end in a way that I bet we see Ohio State and Oregon in the Big Ten championship game again. And that would kick ass. I would love to watch that game again.
Yeah, that would be great. Evan Stewart and Tez Johnson had huge games. Dylan Gabriel had a monster game. We'll talk more about him in a little bit. But we need to talk about our next winner from the weekend, which was Texas, but by extension, Cooper Manning's hat, because, wow, did he look incredible in his ginormous cowboy hat on the sidelines. Lucy, Texas kind of did what we thought they would do in this game. They scored a lot of points, and Oklahoma could not score really any. The final was 34-3. So this Red River rivalry sort of goes the way it did 2 years ago, not the way it went last year. And Texas gets their win in Dallas and gets to move on to their big game this weekend against Georgia. Was there anything that stood out to you from Quinn Ewers' return to Texas starting this game this weekend?
Things were a little weird in the first half. Red River always has weird energy. It just tended to work a little bit more in Texas's favor this time around. To score that many points against a very, very good Oklahoma defense. Oklahoma is the new Iowa. I feel pretty confident saying that, where their offense is like a level of anemic that's really disturbing, and their defense is so good. So Texas, yeah, I mean, this is crazy. We're rolling into the Georgia week. They look phenomenal right now. No complaints for the Longhorns, but this is their big test this weekend.
Yeah, Texas's defense looked great. They sacked Michael Hawkins 5 times. They had 13 tackles for loss. And Oklahoma's offense, like you said, 3rd percentile in yards per play, EPA per rush, and 5th percentile in EPA per play. You're probably not going to win a game if you can't have any plays with positive EPA at all in your whole game. So really rough. But that was an exciting one, and I think, good win for Texas. They tried to plant the flag at half field. I don't really understand how that works. Like, it doesn't stay, right? Like, it falls out every time.
Yeah,
but the hat was great.
Yeah, I wish it was styrofoam. Or like the
right.
If he had gone with like the
Mike
if you're
Ryan
gonna do
hat.
it obnoxiously if you're gonna do obnoxiously large, then you might as well just make it kitschy.
Yeah. Lucy, who's our next big winner from this weekend?
Our next big winner is Kirby Smart. It's a perfect transition since Texas and Georgia are playing this weekend. I'm not going to say, the notes say got away with assault.
Who wrote that?
I'm not saying he did that. I'm reading what someone, quote, got away with assault, end quote. So obviously that's in reference to during the game, a Mississippi State player ended up on the Georgia sideline after a play, seemed pretty harmless. And Kirby Smart, in an incredibly rage-filled moment, pushed the shit out of this player, like chest past him, sort of.
Yes, that was Mississippi State's quarterback.
Yes.
Michael Van Buren. Kirby has since apologized for this, but a lot of people were making a very big deal out of it.
I don't think it's a big deal.
I think he should just pay a fine to that player. I think he should give that player a check for $10,000 and then we call it a day.
You should say you can transfer to Georgia. We'll let you come to Georgia. clearly he wasn't like, I'm going to beat the shit out of this college kid. Like, that wasn't the intention here.
Who did
It
he think he was pushing? Like, you thought it was a staff? Someone on his staff?
I just genuinely think he was so rage-filled, which, by the way, Georgia won this game by 10 points. And Mississippi State is a dog shit team. They were very, very bad. Like, this should have been a shutout. There should never be a situation where Mississippi State scores any points against Georgia because that's how bad Mississippi State is. And so to give up that many points, to struggle against that team, I can understand why he was so angry. So I just assumed that he just was seeing all red. He did not have any sort of color, like he was colorblind in the moment and couldn't see that that was a Mississippi State player. And he was just in this fury and fit of rage. And I don't think he realized what he was doing. But I just want to make it clear, my official stance is you should not shove players.
Yeah, Kirby needs to be better
shouldn't do
in
it.
that situation. Staying on the SEC, another big winner from the weekend, Death Valley. Lucy, everyone talks about night games at Death Valley, and with reason, because LSU did not lead for a single second of this game, but they came back and they won it, and it was absolutely spectacular in overtime. And I want to give Death Valley some of the credit. Like, what percentage credit do we give Death Valley itself for this win?
I feel like you should give Death Valley a ton of credit. I'd go full 50%.
50, okay.
Yeah, I'm going high on that one because, like you said, LSU did not lead that entire game. LSU's quarterback did not play well, extremely inaccurate. Only like the big moment was that 4th and 5 conversion. That's a Death Valley moment. So I want to give Death Valley all the credit in the world. So we were at Eugene, as we kind of previously mentioned. The Ohio State Oregon game and LSU Ole Miss started about the same time. We had already left the field from storming.
This game was so
uploaded
long.
all our footage,
So
and we had overtime had not started yet.
Well, because there were like combined like 50 incomplete passes, I think, in this game. Like you mentioned,
And I don't know, did Ole Miss allegedly fake any injuries? I don't know.
Actually, I don't think they did. They were kind of put on
good for
notice
them.
for this game. That was a big talking point going into the week. If it happened, maybe it was one time, but I didn't really see that become an issue. But you mentioned that 4th and 5. This was the last drive for LSU in regulation where they needed to score a touchdown, and it was a 13-play, 75-yard drive. It would be like incompletion, and then a 14-yard pass on 4th and 6, and then like incompletion, 2-yard gain, 19-yard pass on 3rd down. Like, it was just crazy. And then they finished it with a 23-yard touchdown pass on 4th and 5 to Aaron Anderson. And then in overtime, just one pass, boom, over. Just an absolutely ridiculous game. Like you said, Nussmeier, like, I don't think he had like a bad game. He had a lot of incompletions, but he threw some outstanding passes when it mattered, and that was sort of it. Like, that was the game, and LSU won. Ole Miss put it like a lot into this team, and they've already have 2 losses in the SEC.
My sneaky favorite moment from this game, and it's going to kind of hint at one of the losers, which is not nice to call him a loser, but my favorite moment from this game was after the game and Jackson Dart giving a press conference looking like he's about to join the dark side, like he was going to join the Sith in Star Wars, like he was full Anakin, where he's like talking like this. He's like, I don't know how we lost this game, and he looked full movie character.
Taylor,
that was great.
Taylor, give me those numbers for how long the quarters were in the LSU Ole Miss game.
First quarter, 33 minutes. Second quarter, 71 minutes. Third quarter, 45 minutes. And then the fourth quarter was 62 minutes. And then you had an 8-minute overtime.
That's amazing. It was
That is
long.
insane.
But you know what?
Insane.
I love it. I was here for it. Okay, Lucy, another big winner. Fans of onside kicks. You saw a crazy onside kick. Describe it to us.
Oh, that onside kick, like, for lack of a better term, kicked ass. So Oregon decided to go with the onside kick. I believe it was second quarter, where it wasn't just a classic onside kick. They were like, we're going to nail this guy right in the chest. like straight aim target practice, and the Ohio State player was so caught off guard because he didn't assume that football was going right for him, which like no one would have. Oregon was able to recover. They only got a field goal off of that possession, but they stole the possession from Ohio State. Ended up coming down to, obviously it was a 1-point game, but it was such a ballsy move and quite aggressive, both in the football sense and also like he got hit hard.
Yeah, everyone's always had that thought, like, why don't they just drill it as hard as they can at someone and see what happens? And that was the strategy, and it worked. The onside kick in the South Carolina-Alabama game was also quite a doozy. That was, wow, another great game, Lucy, which we probably don't have time to break down all of, but Alabama struggling at home against South Carolina after losing to Vanderbilt, not a great 2-week stretch for that defense.
No, their defense is bad. I read some stat that they've given up more big plays this year than they have like the last 3 years combined. They just don't look good. And South Carolina probably should have won this game. Like they were able to drive down the field so easily at the end of the game. And it ended up coming down to Alabama scoring a touchdown on just like a complete blown coverage. Had South Carolina just like defended that one play, they would have won, because the way they were so easily able to drive down the field at the end of that game. They looked a lot better than they did last week. Not Alabama, South Carolina, of course. Alabama just looks bad across the board, and they're going to Tennessee this weekend, who also hasn't looked that good. Things are odd. Things are odd in Tuscaloosa, and I'm sure that all the fans are going to handle it very rationally, I'm sure. I'm sure.
I mean, the Alabama defense has not handled the last two offenses. They've played well, but maybe the bright side is that Tennessee's offense is completely different, and maybe they'll be better able to defend like the more like drop back and pass, like play action style offense versus like Sellers and Pavia, who are just going to run when they can and blow up plays and like do well outside of the pocket. So I don't know, maybe that is something that you can hope for as an Alabama fan. But yeah, 2 weeks in a row, they have not looked their best. Lucy, of the winners left on our sheet, what do you want to talk about?
I think we have to talk Ashton Genty, because the numbers he is putting up are just like batshit crazy. And I think we're all doing a good job about talking about him. I just feel like it still should be more. I feel like we probably should have led with him. I know we went to Oregon, Ohio State, but we should have led with him. He is now the Heisman favorite, which I believe the Heisman favorite has changed almost every single week of this season. You can check that out with our friends on DraftKings. But he's averaging almost 10 yards a carry. He has over 1,200 rushing yards on the season, 17 touchdowns through 6 games. I don't know if it's still up, but the Sickos committee has done a wonderful job of putting together a graphic of teams that have less rushing yards or touchdowns than Ashton Genty, because he's so insanely good.
Yeah, he's been having an incredible season and rightfully should be the favorite to win the Heisman at this point in the season. But I'm going to give our preemptive, like it's early, but preemptive October Heisman to someone else, and that's Diego Pavia. He, I think, is an October Heisman contender, if not winner, 2 weeks into it. They beat Kentucky this week. Vanderbilt on the brink of going bowling, Lucy. This has been a wild ride.
Crazy.
And I think they're favored against Ball State this weekend, so hopefully they win that one.
It would be a very Vanderbilt moment to like back-to-back SEC wins, including Alabama, and then lose to Ball State. But I don't think they'll do that. This is a very fun, interesting Vanderbilt team. I don't want to jump too far ahead because Texas is coming to town in 2 weeks.
But what if they beat 2 number ones in the same month?
I mean, then you have to just give them the national championship.
I agree with that. Actually, we should make that a rule.
Just have to give it to them on the spot.
All right, let's talk about our losers really quick.
Which that would mean Purdue should be national championship by now.
Oh, man. Okay. I don't want to dwell on our losers because it makes me sad, but on our list, 6th and 7th year quarterbacks not named Dillon Gabriel are losers this week. We had some tough injury news about Cam Rising. I really do feel terrible for him. It has just not worked out. He has not been able to stay healthy. Graham Mertz tore his ACL and is out for the season for Florida. Dillon Gabriel is like the sole guy who is just having an outstanding season in college football. Am I missing someone?
I almost called you Lucy. I know that I'm Lucy and you're Jessica. Or is it Jennifer? I can't remember.
We're both Jennifer, I think.
We're both Jennifer. Look, I've been in several different time zones over the last 48 hours. I want to give a special shout out to a player who I am always constantly rooting for. Spencer Petras, 6-year quarterback, over 400 yards this weekend for Utah State.
Wow.
I am happy for him. I am rooting for him. Hell yeah, brother.
Okay, so we'll add Spencer Petras to our list of quarterbacks. I mean, Tyler Shuck's doing okay.
Yeah.
Cade McNamara, Lucy, any...
Who?
Okay.
Who's that?
Another big loser, the Calgorithm. Man, Cal, we were doing so well. We were on such a high together, and now 2 losses in a row in the ACC, both in games like really they should have won. They were just right there. They lost to Pitt this weekend, Lucy, at Pitt. Just a really sad fall from the highs of the pre-game day Miami crowd.
I want to give another winner shout out briefly. Pat Narduzzi's seen his team not score points again. He's feeling great right now.
And that is 100% true. You know, he was so excited to get into the press conference and be like, that's how you win a football game. Defense, baby.
Defensive battle.
This is what I've been saying all this time, and you tried to doubt me. Okay, well, do you want to talk about any other losers, or should we move on to what's coming ahead in Week 8?
I think we can move on. I think it was overall a winner weekend. I think everyone had a lot of fun watching college football. The only other loser I put on the list were people who hate field storming. It was fun. I don't care what you say.
Okay, I think that field storming in every scenario it's been deployed this year has been completely defensible. I saw people are mad at Colorado fans for storming the field after a Hail Mary in a comeback win. Like, if you can't storm the field then win.
And my argument is always like, this is a college football game. It's for the college kids. Let them storm the field.
Right, safely.
Right? Just chill out. Safely. Safely. I think it's a little different for basketball just because you don't have as much time to get off the court or whatever. But that's
and I do worry about
Gen
players.
CBB.
Gen CBBs. Actually, we should pitch that. I do worry about player safety. I hate when you see the clips of players like getting in fights with fans and fans like giving them the finger. Don't do that. That's stupid.
Don't do that.
Everyone be respectful, but have fun. That's what the sport's all about. Lucy, we have 2 very important game. Every game this weekend's important, but 2 ranked versus ranked matchups that I think will have some serious playoff implications. Which game do you want to start with?
I think I'd like to start with the game we're going to, which is Alabama at Tennessee. This game had a lot more hype 2 weeks ago.
Hype.
Obviously, a lot more hype. Things have obviously changed quite a bit. Tennessee, Florida, I know we really didn't talk about it much. That's never a game I put any sort of stake into. That game has never been played normally once in history ever. Like, it just doesn't go right. That is a team where, like, no matter how good Tennessee is, no matter how bad Florida is, Florida always finds a way to compete in that game. So, like, I'm not putting too much stake into that. Although it could have been kind of not a season saver, but something great for Billy Napier. But I'm not counting Florida, Tennessee. Tennessee, Arkansas, I'm definitely looking at. These are 2 teams that, like, their sort of weaknesses, as you highlighted earlier, or Tennessee, they don't have the offensive power they once did. They don't really have the Jalen Hyatt type of guy who can really take over. And Nico is still young, and you can see that. So they're having to rely on the run game a lot more than they're used to. And then Alabama's defense is just lost right now. Like, since halftime of that Georgia game, they have been pretty bad across the board. So somebody is going to have to figure it out. And that's why I'm excited for this game.
Yeah, Tennessee doesn't really have that offensive, like, wide receiver weapon that you would hope to see, but they do have Dylan Sampson, who's been really outstanding for them playing running back. I think the big key for Alabama on offense, because Tennessee's defense is good, I still think they deserve a lot of credit. Mero can't turn it over. Like, don't turn the ball over. I still think Mero is great. He won our September Heisman unanimously, Lucy, and I think he's due for a big game, but he can't turn it over, and he needs to just throw the ball to Ryan Williams 20 times. We are getting nutty this season with Hampton Farms Peanuts, the official snack nut of tailgates, and they're going to be here with us all season as we preview the next week's games. And that brings us to the big night game, 7:30 on ABC. Number 5, Georgia in Austin at number 1, Texas. Texas is back at number 1 in the AP poll. Lucy, this is going to be a doozy. I am vacillating between Georgia wins by 1 point and Texas wins by like 12. I don't know who to pick in this game, but I'm really excited for it. These are 2 really good college football quarterbacks, Quinn Ewers and Carson Beck. 2 teams that have great defenses, although Georgia has let some teams linger this year, and they have given up a lot of points in the last few weeks. So who are you picking to win this huge game? Does Texas come out of the weekend undefeated still?
I think Texas does, but this is a game that, like, I'm going to say on Gen CFB that I think Texas wins, but you can bet everything, I'm not going to put any money on it because I don't actually know what's going to happen. Texas has been playing so well all year, and like they've handled all their opponents. I believe Oklahoma scoring that field goal to start the game was the first time Texas has trailed all season. Like they have just been electric this year, and they have dominated. Where Georgia's been playing with their food for a few weeks now, I kind of think that works in Georgia's favor a little bit because like Kirby Smart's out here assaulting players. Like that's got to get the vibes going. But I just think that right now Texas is. I think Oregon is better than Texas. I put Oregon as the best team in the country, but right now Texas is. That win. If Texas wins this game, you can convince they are the number one team, and I'll take that easily. But though, just Oregon winning against Ohio State like that is such a good win, and I really think that they're the best team in the country when Dylan Gabriel plays the way he does. But this is the chance for Texas to sort of prove that. I just think that Texas is more well-rounded. I think they've kind of got it figured out. It's a home game. But wouldn't it be batshit crazy for Georgia to have 2 losses before end of October?
It would be wild.
I'm talking myself into Georgia. I don't think they'll do that.
I think Texas is the slightly better team in this matchup. I think they put a lot of pressure on Beck. He's not been great outside of the pocket or under pressure, so that's going to be a huge key for them. Of the following games, Lucy, are you willing to pick any upsets? Oklahoma State at BYU, Miami at Louisville, Nebraska at Indiana, Auburn at Missouri, Michigan at Illinois. You guys need to see the faces Lucy's making right now. LSU at Arkansas, Kansas State at West Virginia. These are all games that have big conference implications. I think there's no way that all the favorites win. Let's put it mathematically, it's not happening. So who are we picking for a big upset this weekend?
I could see Illinois winning. I know that they were, I don't know what happened with Purdue. One of the weirder games of
crazy.
The season. I could see Illinois winning. Michigan really just doesn't have it figured out right now. Although, I mean, Illinois is ranked higher than Michigan, which is just wild to say. And it's in Champaign. I could see LSU losing to Arkansas coming off a big win. I know that Arkansas is also coming off a big win, but I believe they're coming off a bye. There's a lot of upsets that are happening. And Jess, do you have any picks?
I'm going to pick the opposite of an upset. I think Miami is going to win this game at Louisville by 2 touchdowns.
I thought you were going to say they were going to lose.
No,
That's why I tossed it to you.
I think Miami is going to win after all of the shit that people have been talking about them after those near losses to Cal and Virginia Tech. No, not us. We've barely talked about Miami this season, so I don't think we can be accused of saying anything mean about them, except for all bias aside when I said that their schedule was really easy. Lucy, it's going to be a fun weekend. Enjoy Tennessee, and I'm excited for you to come back and tell us that it was your favorite place you've ever been.
I don't think it will be. Oregon really was great, and a lot of people have been very rude to me this week of being like, wow, you say every place is the best place you've ever been. Sorry for getting new information and changing my opinion. Maybe we could all take a lesson from me there.
Yeah, and just to, all bias aside, just to reinforce it, Louisville does not have a chance this weekend. We'll see you guys next week.
Kind of excited about all the Rays possibilities, and I understand for people in that St. Pete area, in Tampa, there are bigger things. But since we know that they're going to stay in the Tampa Bay area, their future is secure with this deal, this does open up some interesting possibilities. Them going to Montreal, that'd be cool, kind of being a vagabond club. But Tim Kurkjian opened the door to them possibly playing in Miami here at Marlins Park, to which I say, the most obvious thing in the world is Dan's going to be a Rays season ticket holder in Miami. We are going to.
He's rooting against this. He has to be rooting against it. He doesn't want this to be put on his
Why?
doorstep.
Because he has to go to the games then?
Yeah.
Because there's not a bigger Rays fan other than Dick Vitale anywhere in the country.
He's up there with Dickie V in terms of fans that you associate with a ball club. It's almost word association now. Dan Le Batard, Tampa Bay Rays. If they come to Miami, we're going to be flipping through channels and seeing them behind the dish, right?
They can't do this to Montreal. They cannot tease Montreal with the Rays, like, for a season. Like, here you go. Like, why don't you have the Rays for a little bit? Like, that's so cruel. That's so cruel.
Wouldn't it be a beta test to see if they can actually support a club? They wouldn't. I think they understand how cruel that would be. Not just like, hey, 2 years, peace out, we're gone.
Right.
Like, the whole Montreal thing was born out of leveraging them for a possible move to see if Montreal could actually support a baseball club.
Why does it cost $100 million to fix the roof of the Trop. Like, that seems crazy to me. Like, I can call someone to tent my house and it's the same material and they can put that up in like 15 minutes. Like, why can't you just call like fumigators to put up like the circus tent right across the roof of the
Also,
tarp?
why don't you just take it off and play open stadium?
Because they can't drain.
There's no
drainage.
drainage,
Drain it, yeah.
apparently.
I'm
is the
curious to
problem.
know how
They
much of
released the
drainage-
Rays, by the way. You know the Rays that they have in the outfield? So, like, they released them to, like, a Ray sanctuary.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what the price. What would be the quote on the drainage system? Because to see that price is wild, and I
couple
understand it
holes
was
in the ground.
It was built a long time ago, but that has to cost more to fix that roof. I'd argue costs more to fix the roof than it was to actually build that stadium.
But I love how Billy is making it seem so easy. Just put a couple of holes in the ground
tell me
and let the
irrigation's
thing
gonna be $100
drain.
million?
Honestly, like I'd elevate the field like 6 inches and then just have it like run off into gutters on the side of the field. I could figure it out. Give me $100 million.
We'll figure it out.
I could figure that out.
You'll come in under budget?
Oh, dude.
We'll do for $1 million.
No. We'll do it for $100 million.
You want the
We'll do it
100,
for
you get the
$100
job
million.
done for $1 million,
Right.
Tony.
How about
We'll
this?
do it
Look,
for $1 million.
It's gonna cost $100 million to fix the roof. Give us 95. And me and Tony will figure it out.
Exactly right.
I'll figure that out.
Right.
$95 million, I can figure out how to make that field playable next year.
I like your angle.
So we're going to strip the roof, the existing roof, of all its
Take it
metal.
off, right?
That's got to cost something, right?
Yeah,
that
dude,
metal.
You sell that metal? Give me that metal. I'll sell that metal.
That's the thing. We
Scrap
flip that. We
Get some money
get a
back.
scrap.
Yeah.
A couple scrap people. We take it from Miami up there. We'll get that thing done in
Scrap
50
metal.
grand.
We could repurpose some of that for our new
95
drainage system
million.
that we're building.
Yeah.
I'm seeing
Couple
that
of holes, yeah.
a drainage system for like a typical yard is somewhere between $2,500 and $8,000.
So what are we looking
what are
at?
we
Like
100 grand
60
to do the
grand?
whole
What's a
thing.
baseball
Yeah.
field with
Right.
just
Talking
a
about
big
acreage.
yard?
Yes. But we asked for $95 million.
Of course.
Yeah, duh.
But we figure out how to do it less than $1 million.
People have said the Trop is so ugly for years. Take the roof off.
Yeah.
Enjoy
What if we
some
do
Florida
this?
sunlight?
We not only cut off the roof, but we cut off half of the stadium,
Vitamin D.
right? And then we have it open.
Yeah.
So it's not closed
Cut
in.
a
It's not like
couple
a
walls.
circle.
Yeah.
We open it up.
I could do that.
So you have Dan sitting behind home plate for the Rays games played in Miami. Do you have Dan buying the seat to his left and the seat to his right just to eliminate the chance of anyone sitting next to him?
He wouldn't have to.
It's a Rays game in Miami. It's
wouldn't
like
have to do that.
literally
It's
a
just
meeting of two baseball franchises that don't draw anyways. He doesn't have to worry about that. It's a shame they got rid of the aquarium behind home plate because that's where you could relocate the Rays to.
Wow. They'd fit there.
A lot of transport for them back and forth.
Yeah.
You
pretty
felt
big,
good about
yeah.
that one, didn't you, Mike? It was good.
Dan in the back with a box of popcorn, just eating popcorn.
Yeah. Dan is the guy that would buy the house, but also buy the property to the left and the right, though, right? Just to not have neighbors.
Look,
And because he can.
it's a time-consuming bit, but he spends much of his free time watching the Rays anyway.
Right.
How funny would it be if we give Dan the seat right behind home plate and he's just always there?
And he becomes Rays man.
He's just ever present, synonymous with the brand.
You have him dressing up as Rays man.
Yeah.
You have him getting into
Wearing those like
character.
light blue, like off
He
brand.
does love costumes.
I tell you, the prospect of the Rays playing in Marlins Park, like, okay, the convenience of having this park in town while not having the emotional baggage that goes along with the Marlins, I essentially now have a new baseball option. I'm kind of in on this.